Okay, so thanks for joining us, everybody. Carl and Simon and I are pretty rapt and privileged to have a special guest with us this evening, a guy called Richard Fox. On his screen, he's displayed as Kiwi Stone. So, the Prince of the Voodoo Lounge.
Perhaps. Yeah.
That's what it should say.
It's good to be here. It's good to be anywhere, but particularly good to be here tonight.
Awesome. So thanks for taking some time out and joining us. And we look forward to the show. And we'll just fire some bits and pieces through to you. So we'll let Carl finish off the introduction, and we'll go from there.
Sure.
Yeah, no, Andrew and I had a bit of a chuckle before because I was doing my math with how old I am less years when I first met you, and the number 30 came up, and I said that can't be right. But then I redid my math and I put the new battery in my calculator, and it was still the same answer, 30. So I think I met you about 1989.
Yeah.
I was just starting Boys High, third form. Bicycle, purple suede leather bag. And did you work at the Westpac building?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, for sure. For Lands and Survey, or Dosley as they were.
Yeah. And below
above the record shop.
Below there was Mike McCarthy's record store, eh?
It was indeed, yes. And before that, it was Ray Stroud's record store.
Ray Stroud, as you know, is the bass player, Andrew, for a band. Do you remember Ray Stroud?
Yeah.
His son played guitar as well. I didn't
Johnny,
know that.
was it Johnny? Johnny and the Phantoms or something?
Yeah.
He was,
hot.
Ray was a pretty big guy.
Proper name for a band.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't want to mess with them.
So Richard was quite unique, and I was really unique, and I guess that's why we bumped heads, because in Hamilton that was quite unique to, hover around record stores on a daily basis, And one thing Richard and I had both in common were, as it turned out, Stones nuts lovers.
So
and
I remember we first met in the record store?
Sorry?
Did we first meet in the record store? Is that where we first?
I think Mike McCarthy introduced us.
Okay, all right. Okay, yep.
And then there was Kerry Kosnich at the record store up the street.
Yep. Yes.
And then there was a kind of an isolated record store all the way in Frankton by the railway lines.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was the only three I can remember.
Yeah, pretty much.
When I went overseas in America, there was about 6 popped up, apparently, all over the show.
Yeah.
Did they do just new stuff, or did they do second-hand records?
These were second-hand stores. There was one across the road from the Westpac building, Tracks, which had Cookie in it. I remember Cookie downstairs, and he was kind of my guru when I was starting out into music collecting and giving me advice on the albums to try and buy and bits and pieces. So, between Cookie and
I
Mike,
worked in a record shop as well.
Actually, you brought up a good point, because I was trying to think to myself. I wrote a few things down. This is one of the things I admire about Richard back in '89, is we seem to forget there was no internet, no Trade Me. Was the Loot around?
I think it was the Trade and Exchange.
Trade and Exchange, yeah.
And the Rip It Up as well was good. Rip It Up had ads in the back occasionally.
And classified ads in the Waikato Times.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And garage sales, obviously. So Cookie being in the music business would have got all the promo gear, like the posters, all that sort of stuff, eh? And
it was good
part
to
of
me.
The perks of working in a music store is you get obviously a promotional package when a new album comes out. But I was going to ask you, because to this day I'm just amazed, because I went through a big eBay phase and everything was so easy. But in the old days, how did you acquire all everything you've accumulated over the years? Your gems, I sold you a couple of things, and you already had an amazing collection.
Yeah, I used to have that wardrobe. Remember, like an old standard standalone wardrobe, and I was slowly stockpiling that. You'd come around and we'd do some trading and stuff. I actually dug this out, Carl. I found this, and I've got this, and I think I got this from you back in the day. And I don't think it ever fitted me then, and it sure as hell ain't going to fit me now. But I'm pretty sure this is yours.
Yeah, because you had a place on Peach Grove Road with 3 roommates.
Yeah, right next to the railway line.
Railway line, you're soccer mad, eh? All soccer mad.
Yeah, soccer. Yeah, I had a huge lot of flatmates come and go, but there were some soccer ones and some cycling ones, and no Stones ones, you know. So.
Near the railway lines, I remember all that. Yeah. One record I sold you was called Unstoppable Stones, which was only available in New Zealand.
Yes.
It was a different cover, modelled after the 5x5 EP that came out in America, and to this day, it's still worth a fortune.
Wow.
Yes. You sometimes see, very trashed versions for a reasonable price, but a keeper is a few $100s at least. So.
How important was Real Groovy to your fetish?
Groovy was huge. I used to work with a guy. He was more into metal, Leopard, and things like that. And he had a car. At this stage, maybe I didn't have a car, and we once every few months, and a couple of different friends prior to that as well. So once every few months, we would take a day off or go up on a Saturday and spend the whole day record shopping. So you'd have Real Groovy, you had Corner Records, Victoria Street Records. One in Lawn Street or whatever. So there's about half a dozen different K Road, St Kevin's Arcade. So you go up there and you save up for this over a period of a couple of months or whatever, and just go there and buy stuff and walk away with a whole lot of albums and leave dozens behind. Bootleg LPs with Common as Muck and Real Groovy. It's just so depressing. $50 each, which was a huge amount of money back then. I can't afford that, and so maybe choose one and get something else, a promo, something or other.
Yeah, and so I lived in America 14 years, and you would come back to New Zealand, you realise how small this place is.
Yes.
So to accumulate any kind of collection, you have to be pretty disciplined and have to play the long game, don't you?
Yeah, very, very much so. I used to buy all sorts of albums. I like lots of music, but I used to have a reasonable collection. And running in parallel, my Stones collection was similar to my non-Stones collection in terms of LPs or CDs. But since basically this century, I have not bought an album by anyone other than the Stones or directly related. So maybe Tom Waits with Keith Richards on it or whatever.
Okay.
And I've sold all that other stuff as well just to fund this addiction so that it's done as properly as I can do it,
Yeah.
So.
And just, I get asked this because people know I like music, but what was the first thing you bought that you would consider a memorabilia style item that basically started the addiction?
Well, the very first thing I bought was She's the Boss on cassette, Jagger's solo album, and the EMI shop where Cookies was working, they gave away Undercover on vinyl with it free. The Undercover was the first thing I got free with the cassette, because obviously it hadn't sold very well the year before or whatever, and so throwing it out with that. So that was the first thing, and you couldn't argue that they were collectible as such. So after that...
So what made you buy? Okay, so here's where the morphine and the heroin goes into your veins. What was the second thing you bought that got you on the addiction track?
That's tricky as well. Maybe a T-shirt. Just a plain black T-shirt from Trax or something with a tongue on it. But I guess I actually worked with a guy. I was 17 at this stage. I just left home in Rotorua. I'd moved to Hamilton. I was boarding with people, and so I had some money for the first time in my life, and I could buy whatever I wanted within reason. And so I would start to buy the old bits and pieces and things would. And I worked with a guy, Matthew, and he was a Stones fan, and he had half a dozen albums, and he'd lend them, he'd bring in the record, and I'd take it back to where I was staying and play it. And then the guy I was living, the son of the people I was staying with there, he was able to record them on cassette. So then I'd get, Some Girls on cassette, off a scratched old record, or go to the library and borrow the record. And I had a whole pile of, the old homemade cassettes.
So just that chance meeting of buying She's the Boss and then buying the record, you slowly became a musical fan as well as collecting the memorabilia.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, I've always had a kind of a tendency for that sort of thing. I remember at school, I was big in cars and car magazines, and I used to get these ones from Germany from my uncle, and I'd memorize all the facts and figures about every single car, or the cards you'd get with the Wheat Bix. Would have different car series back in the 70s, and I was really into all the trivia of that and trying to complete the set and Star Wars cards and things like that at primary school. So it was kind of, I guess, at the time I never thought of it. I thought, I'll just have a couple of things, and before you know it, it's out of control. And so it's just, I just wanted, some of the records and want the basic records. I mean, there's a book here. That book's interesting. I'll get that book and a T-shirt and then something else. And then it got to the point where I had had a little bit more money and I didn't really want to spend it on other things. I liked the collecting thing, and basically everything that was Stones related in Hamilton I would buy. And I remember things like ZZ Top came to play, and I could have gone to ZZ Top, or I could buy this copy of Out of Our Heads. It was a tough call, but I bought Out of Our Heads rather than going to ZZ Top, And I saw ZZ Top several years later, and I could have bought Out of Our Heads later, but at the time I was like, I need the Stones album more than I need to go to that concert, And so that's how it was.
If you moved into a new flat, could you kit it with Rolling Stone memorabilia where you'd survive, like Rolling Stone plates, knives, forks, a lighter?
Pretty. I say that. I do say that to people. Other than like a food processor, I pretty much have everything that you might have in a normal house. So I do have the plates. I do have the cutlery, and the barbecue utensils. I have the aprons, the oven mitts, the ice cube trays, the bottles of wine, the ashtrays, the beers, the lighters. The lunch boxes, the Christmas tree ornaments, the baseball bats, the balls, the footballs, the soccer balls, the rugby balls, every bit of clothing you can have. So socks, shoes, shorts, cycling kit as well, jackets, helmets, hats, caps, beanies, underwear, socks,
you name it,
everything, dressing gown. So pretty much everything you have, you could argue I could survive on in a Stones world with all this crap. Yeah. So.
Richard, can I just do a shout out? We've got a guy called Dave in the chat, and Dave is from the UK. He's the guy that suggested we get hold of you. He saw your clip on the internet when you were doing the thing with TVNZ. So he sent Carl and I a link saying, you got to get this cat on your show, man. So that's a shout out to Dave. But there's a couple of questions he's asked in the chat that I'd like to pass on to you. The first question he's asking you is, what is the bit of Stones memorabilia you wish you had? And also he's asking a question, do you know anything about the Crawl Daddy tapes? He's seen a tape on display at the exhibition. Does know anything about them, and will anyone hear anything about what's on those tapes?
Okay. So the first question was what? So the first one was in terms of what would the piece of memorabilia that I would like the most?
Yeah, you wish you had. Yeah.
I wish I had. Well, you could start with what Keith Moon previously owned, which was the 1975 Lotus stage. Would be nice. I guess that would be kind of cool. I don't really stage at Keith Moon ended up buying, but I don't really have room for that. So, in terms of things that I would really like that I want to, and it's easy. I have a list that changes all the time, but constantly at the top of this is the skateboards from 1989, the steel wheel skateboards. I have one of them, and I think 5 or 6 in the set, and occasionally they come up on eBay, and a few came up just before I went to America this year. And once again, it was a toss-up: can I buy them now, or I need the money for tickets and blah blah. So the skateboards come up occasionally. So yeah, I would really like the skateboards. Okay, which I know seems like an obscure thing. It's not a particularly rare record or what you might expect, but I like the 3D type things. I've got all the most of the music. I've got all the music in various formats or whatever, and how many copies do you need of such and such an album or different pressings. I have a friend who has like 36 copies of Satanic Majesties on vinyl, 36 different ones, you know. So, but I like the 3D things, whatever the things I listed before, all the tactile things, the Rubik's Cubes, the beer cans, the Christmas tree ornaments, the lighters, the balloons, the cups, whatever. I love that sort of stuff. Rather than paper stuff, I've got other friends who are huge collectors, and they're predominantly into the paper items, which are worth a lot more money. You know, the Ronnie Wood's drawings, you know, his original drawings, or a letter Keith wrote to Ronnie Wood, handbills from 60s shows and posters and things like that, which are all lovely and worth a lot of money. But for me, they get filed like books. They get filed and they're there and they're away, and you see the spine and you've got them, but you can't really display them so easily. They don't look so beautiful, and I like to have the things that are, you know, just more 3D and look great. So that's my buzz. As for the crawdaddy stuff, it's not really my area of expertise. There's a million guys out there who know all this sort of stuff, and I leave that to them, you know. The Stones is such a huge topic. I know this much, you know, maybe a little bit more than most people, but there are people who know a lot more about certain areas, but they have no idea that there are 7 different bottles of tequila that the Stones put out, you know, and they don't care. Okay? So I do. I care about that shit. And today's discovery is that on this tour, the Stones had beer cups, okay, plastic Rolling Stones. I'll go and grab them. A prop.
Yeah.
Even Keith didn't know they had that many that many tequilas out. Otherwise, you'd be still interested.
What a legend!
So you've got you've got the beer cups here. So these are the beer cups that initially everyone when the Chicago show came on, I've got the beer cup, you know, and everyone was excited about buying the beer cup, you know, full of beer. Little did they know that if you didn't buy the beer and you bought the soda, you'd actually get the smaller one. So there's actually 2. So you need to see. And most people haven't got the small one because everyone's drinking the beer. They're not buying the Coke. Okay. So a lot of fans ended up without this. And then there's the odd non-drinker who has a pile of these. And so people are trading. I had to get this off. These came from different people because I wasn't at that show. But I did go to Miami the other day, and I got that. And I had this from Chicago. And then a friend in Miami goes, "Do you need another cup?" I go, "Yeah, I don't need it, but I'll take it. I always trade them." So he gave me another cup, another small cup. But notice the difference. The printing is in a different location, and the blue is a different shade of blue. Okay?
Wow.
And so 99.9% of Stones fans, they don't give a shit. But I do. I like this stuff. Okay? And so now I'm happy. I have the set. Okay? So, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, when I
sorry if I go off on a bit of a tangent there and I dribble on too much, but you can edit that out.
No such thing as a tangent.
It's your show.
All right. Sorry.
My main passion was collecting Rolling Stone records. I liked the books and everything. But when I arrived in America, and I was a bit late with the computers, I think I got my first laptop 2004. But eBay was basically a twofold to me. It was basically everything you ever wanted at touch of your fingertip, but it took all the digging and the hunting and the scratching away because it was so easy. Did you, when you discovered eBay, did you talk to your bank manager about maybe a new credit card?
No, I didn't. But people talk about, you've got everything, and I say I could spend $10,000 a day on eBay for the rest of my life and still not get everything. You know, it's just a ridiculous amount of stuff out of there. So you need to prioritize and focus on what you want. Sorry.
Did eBay open up your world?
Yeah. Oh, totally. eBay changed the world. Yeah. So you went from the Trading Exchange here, the Rip It Up magazine that had the Australian fan club, and you got a bit of stuff through that. And then eBay was before Trade Me. eBay changed the world. Well, the internet changed the world. I also, in about the mid-90s, so in about 96, I think, I got my first computer at work, and I'd sneak into work in the weekends and belonged to some news groups, and that then led me to a group called Undercover, which is a news, rather than a forum, it's a news group or whatever. So I was a member of that, and then you start to meet people, and then you start to trade. And back in those days, we were here in New Zealand, and in the UK they released them Bridges to Babylon, and they put out the 7-inch singles on vinyl, on picture discs, and we couldn't get them. And I met a young guy called Matt Lee who was 19 in the University of Stirling in Scotland there, and we traded some things. And Matt's now gone from that. He is now the #1 collector in the world with the world's biggest Rolling Stones collection.
Oh wow!
From a humble beginning like that. So, and then so I meet lots of people like that in trading, and I love trading. So often there's things that come to New Zealand, surprisingly, that are exclusive to New Zealand or very difficult to get elsewhere, and then I can trade them overseas. You know, I'll buy multiples of them and I'll trade them for this. So every week I have parcels coming and going, and so there's always stuff.
Oh wow! Still doing it.
And eBay is just insane. And I try not to do eBay because of the price. I would rather trade with some and the fees, and I try not to sell on there once again because of the fees. I've set up a Facebook group called Hearts for Sale. I've got nearly 3,000 members on there. I set that up a few years ago, and that's purely for Stones fans to buy, sell, trade stuff, avoiding the eBay thing. You can deal directly with the person who's got it for sale or whatever. You can talk to them. You know, it's just, I think, a much better option. Obviously, it's a small market. 2,500 people is tiny in the big scheme of things, but it's working well now, and there are people buying and selling stuff on there weekly, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
God bless
you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so how do you muster up the discipline? Obviously, you've got expenses like we have, shelter, food, gasoline, tyres, Warren Fitness, families, Christmas presents, birthday presents. How do you draw the line between yes and no?
It's all about. I prioritize, and it depends who you ask. I might prioritize badly, but I prioritize. And you know, I don't have Sky TV. I don't go watch the All Blacks. I seldom go to bars and things when I'm here in New Zealand or whatever. So I try not to spend money on that stuff. I spend the money on the Stones. This is my focus with my spare time and spare money. And as I said, I trade a lot. I'm luckily now I have some people give me stuff, you know, which is very generous of them. And so and it just bits and pieces come along, and I sell things and make some extra money out of that, or I do some extra bits and pieces for people, odd jobs here and there, or whatever. And it's just, I just prioritize it, you know, rather than go, let's go to the All Blacks and spend $100 on that and buying, you know, the latest All Black jersey or whatever, which doesn't really interest me. You know, I want the Stone stuff, and I hunt it down and I look for sales, and I also work very hard with this sort of stuff. Like there's the bar fridge, there's a Rolling Stones bar fridge which you can get out of Wellington, and so I found it originally. I've got a little bar fridge story. The bar fridge story is interesting. It's beautiful. I'll show you. Can I show you? We'll go for a walk.
Yeah. Take us anywhere you want.
This is the bar fridge here, okay? The Rolling Stones. It's an official bar fridge. Has the R on, which is a whole other story, and is very, very crucial to me. So this is the bar fridge here, a little empty at the moment, but a couple of beers in there. One would be good now. And so so those bar fridges, as far as we were aware, were only available in Germany for they came out, I think 2017 or something. And so a lot of my German friends had one. And I looked at getting one here, and it's just very difficult and very expensive. You know, it's 20 plus kilos and the size of it. And then eventually a mate in Australia put a post on Facebook going, hey, you can get the bar fridge here in Australia. So, oh my God. So I was so excited. Then so I rang the guys in Australia and said, can we get them here in New Zealand? They said, yes, we can. And it was a lot dearer here in New Zealand than it was in Australia. But I talked to them, and I advertised it to a whole lot of my other friends who are in Australia, and I think 6 or 7 of them brought a bar fridge in the space of a week. So then I ring up the general manager of the bar fridge company in Australia and say, hey, you look at your sales spike on Stone's bar fridges last week. That's from me. Can you cut me a deal, you know? And he goes, yeah, we can, you know? So I do things like that. I'm always working, trying to, you know, this stuff just doesn't fall in my lap. I don't just, you know, have an endless gold credit card and just buy shit. I'm always working it. I'm always doing things. The Universal Music look after me quite well these days. I do things for them. So, So money's obviously a major factor, but if you work hard, then there's other ways you can acquire stuff.
Golf is an expensive game, isn't it? If you play golf, membership of a club, rounds every week, clubs.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So, it's always a priority.
Richard, you brought up a good point before. We're obviously talking about Rolling Stones and memorabilia, but you brought up a good point as far as the people you meet along the way, the journey.
Yes.
That's the other That's the other half of the fun.
Oh, that totally. A lot. So I have some friends. I deal with Stones fans all around the world daily, hourly. You know, I wake up to piles of messages. I'm always dealing with different people. A whole pile of them are purely collectors. They might go to a few shows near where they live in Belgium or wherever they happen to be, or Japan or Argentina. They'll go to just the shows in that part of the world, or Kiwis who will just go to Australia and things like that, but they buy a lot of stuff. They collect. They get all the stuff from around the world. They have rooms similar to this, They buy all the stuff. Then I have other friends who don't collect any of the shit. They have a few T-shirts, a jacket, a couple of books, the CDs, the basic CDs, but they go to dozens of shows. That's their buzz. They go to all the shows. And so I meet all these different sorts of people, and then there are people like me who I try and balance it. I try to buy as much as I can and see as many shows as I can, and try and judge. I could buy less, as I said on the TV thing, so I could buy less memorabilia and go to more shows, or I could go to more shows and buy less stuff. And I try to get it to where I'm happy, where I'm comfortable at that level. But half the buzz now for going to the Stones tour is to see the other fans. It's just meeting up the same people. I can go to any show in the world and know a minimum of 50 people from all around the world. The same people do the same stuff. Go to these shows, a lot of them are doctors and lawyers and retired or whatever, they're all wonderful, they're nearly all wonderful people, and it's fantastic. Everyone looks after each other. It's a great sense of community. If someone needs a ticket, you just can advertise in certain groups and forums, and someone else will know someone who's got a spare ticket or whatever. You need a ride to a show, or I didn't get that poster at the show. Anyone got a spare, and they'll, hey, I've got the spare. I'll trade you for your poster from somewhere else, and it's just a huge network. So it's beautiful. I love it. These guys are fantastic. You're at shows, standing in the rain. You're outside queuing. Sometimes, depending on the show, queuing from 6 a.m. So you spend all day queuing outside a venue with these same people, and you become good friends after that. You've got a lifelong bond, and it's fantastic. I love it. Great community.
Yeah, I knew a guy in Austin, and all he collected was Keith Richards stuff.
Yeah.
But he was a bit different. He actually, not only did he collect Keith Richards stuff, but he dressed and got his hair done just like Keith. Yeah.
Well, there's a few people like that. And I have
Stones lookalikes.
Well, I can probably even top that story. I know I had this friend. She was Australian born. She lived in the UK. She's no longer with us, but she did every show on the Bridges to Babylon tour in Europe, which included Russia. And she got rid of her business, maybe sold a house, I can't quite remember, but bought a van, and she drove everywhere, including driving from Amsterdam to Moscow or whatever in her van between shows to go to every single show. And she was the biggest Keith Richards nut, and I use that in a nice way, that you've ever met. So if Keith was there, she was watching Keith. Keith would disappear back to Charlie, and you couldn't see him from the front row because the stages are high. Mick would come to the front, right here. Mick Jagger, she would look at the ground. And Keith would come back. And wherever Keith went, Keith disappeared, look at the ground. Don't want to see Ronnie, don't want to see Mick. I'm not going to see them. Just looking for Keith. Keith would come back. So it attracts all sorts of people. And I have another friend who's a big Charlie fan, and she's nowhere near like that. And Kara, she's not like that at all. But she's a Charlie fan, and she'll watch Charlie. She'll see a bit of other stuff, but her predominant focus is Charlie. And I have to say, mine is predominantly Mick. Whatever's happening, but Mick's my guy, and so I'm watching Jagger most of the time. But I'm not to the point where I'm looking at the ground. That's just ridiculous. But each to their own. Yeah. So
amazing.
Brenda.
Yeah.
We were yesterday. I've got this sort of silly theory, Richard, that eventually what will happen in bands is that you'll have substitutes. You know, tonight the role of Keith Richards will be played by, you know, and if there's some guy who looks like him, so much the better.
Well, I've heard that Aerosmith have a guy backstage, and I went to the Aerosmith show when they came to Dunedin. Aerosmith are one of my favourite guys, and Steven Tyler was breathing or pausing for breath, and he was still singing, you know. So, yeah.
Well done. Well, yes.
But the Stones aren't there, you know. There's no miming, there's no nothing. I guess the only thing is the intro for "Sympathy for the Devil" or something like that, you know. But other than that, one of the beauties with the Stones is every night is different. You know, the set list doesn't vary as much as we would like. Yep, but every night is different. Keith will stuff up on a different song every night, you know, and that's what we want, you know. If I want the album, I'll play the album. I'll stay home and watch the DVD or whatever, you know. The beauty is every night's different, and things happen, and they make mistakes, and they're human, and they laugh at different times. And Mick will give Keith the death glare occasionally if he stuffs up or whatever, and Keith will just shrug it off, and they'll stop the song and they'll start it again, and it's just brilliant. And the super fans, that's what we love. We love all that stuff, and the public often won't notice it at all. You know, most of the people who are the casual fans don't notice this stuff so much, but we look at each other and just smile and laugh because that's made that show unique. You know.
I had a slightly mischievous theory, which I've talked about on here with Andrew John, that actually that Keith's not playing at all. They've turned him down. Wow. And they got somebody else playing, which of course entirely
that sounds like a Chuck Series story, isn't it?
No, no, but it's it's like just mischievous fun on my part, I think because I saw him playing at Glastonbury, and at some point, and I think it's the delay of the pictures and the sound. But sometimes you see him doing stuff and you go, well, that's not what's playing.
Well, I think you'll see that Ronnie Wood's doing a lot more than Keith Richards these days. You know, so Ronnie covers a lot for Keith. So
yeah.
But
yes,
we all know Keith. So.
He's deserved. It's totally fine.
Yeah. No, I was speaking to Brian Jones initially for a long time. I just found him quite. I guess when someone dies, they become a little bit larger than life.
Yes.
But I had another couple of questions. What's your rarest item?
Well, I have some things that there's only 20, 30 of or something like that. So that would make it the rarest, but not necessarily the most valuable. So those are two separate things. Well,
that was my next question, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to. But what's valuable? I have the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail thing in my collection, as it is, would be in lots of people's collections if they had one, especially New Zealanders. Is the 1973 New Zealand Auckland poster with the Kiwi is the Holy Grail. Because that particular concert was amazing. That tour of '73, they were playing exceptionally well in Australia and New Zealand.
Yes. If I could see the Stones any time, it would be 72, 73 is kind of, Mick Taylor. And I watched your thing about Mick Taylor and that, and the Taylor years are the best years of the Stones in the studio at least. Anyway, okay, the Taylor albums are the best. Ronnie Wood's a much better Rolling Stone. Okay, Ronnie Wood is a Rolling Stone. Yeah. Mick Taylor was musically is just brilliant, and Ronnie will agree to that. And I loved how on the 14 on Fire too, Mick Taylor came back and admittedly only played a couple of songs each night, but Ronnie was big enough to, not throw his toys out of the cot and have Taylor back, and Taylor's brilliant, and
Ronnie was probably thinking,
Ronnie's a Stone, and I'm happy. I wouldn't swap Ronnie for Mick Taylor because Ronnie is a Stone,
And do you think, Richard, our sort of discussion around this is the kind of, which is the best year of the Rolling Stones. But my feeling about it is that actually what Keith likes is a Ronnie Wood type player, not more than a Mick Taylor type player. So in effect, you have that, that meshing of the two guitars. Not quite sure who's playing what, people, in and out. Whereas much more clearly defined, isn't there, with Taylor and Richards?
Yes. Yep. And that's one of the other things too. Going back to Keith playing, Keith is always at his best when Mick is sick. Over the last few years, I've seen the Stones a lot of times since 2014, and Mick is occasionally sick. He loses his voice, and Keith will sometimes do 3 songs when Mick's got a particularly bad voice, rather than just doing his normal 2 songs. But his guitar playing is always better. If Mick's not well, he lifts for his brother. You know, they're not best friends. They haven't been since the 60s, but they're like brothers. You know, they get on really well when they need to, and if they don't see each other for another year, they don't care. There's probably the odd communication via managers and maybe the odd happy birthday phone call or something like that. But when Mick is not quite well and there's something not quite right with him, Keith will play better. Keith will be more dominant, more forward in the mix, on stage, his presence, everything, and that's just a beautiful sign. Just him looking out for his brother, and I love that. You know.
Well, so that's going back to 1961 when they probably first started playing, or 62. That's 60 years or 50 years of playing together?
Yeah. Well, it's coming up to 60 years, you know.
60 years, yeah.
Yeah. So there'll be I always joke when they did the 40 licks, I'll see on the 50 licks tour, and what? Of course, there's been 50 years. I got that right, and all my friends pooh-hooed me when I said this in 2003. They'll still be going for their 50th anniversary, and they were, and they'll still be going for their 60th. And these are the big questions everyone, all the people want to know. When are they going to stop? And when's going to be their last show? And surely they'll play London as their last show. They'll play their last show will be. Oh, they haven't come back. There is not another one. That was the last show. It's not going to be announced, and it's only going to end when one of them is too sick to carry on, basically. Ronnie would play every night of the week if he could, okay? Keith plays because he loves playing with Charlie. Charlie is not going to be the guy who says to Keith, I don't want to play anymore. Charlie would happily retire. He wouldn't give a shit if they never played again, He's been like that for the last 30 years. He wouldn't give a toss at all, But he's not going to let Keith down. And so, and Mick is the weakest link. And most people go, Keith's the weakest link, or Charlie, because but Mick is so busy. He's got so many other things on, He could walk away. He loves the adulation. As Keith says, he's a lovely bunch of guys. The ego is there. He's super smart. He makes lots of money out of it. And one of the things I enjoy with Mick is I love him having babies. I love all these young women. He needs to keep working. Someone's got to fund all these kids. So Mick having more kids is just brilliant. He will keep working because of this. And so hopefully Jagger wants to keep going. And he loves the adulation. He really doesn't. He does have genuine fun up there. Of course, they make a truckload of money, as you all know. But you can see it on stage. And even the beauty of this tour we've just been having this year, not the previous years, but this part of the No Filter tour, we're getting Mick and Keith sharing the microphone, which is like the holy grail for Stones fans to see them live, is them sharing a microphone like they did back in the 70s and that, Yeah.
So
they're doing that, and they wouldn't. It's none of it staged. This is these guys doing what they're wanting, and that's just fantastic. They can do it so well.
And you can be honest. I saw them in 2004, and I thought they were surprisingly.
No, you didn't.
They sounded. Sorry.
Oh, you might. Yeah, sorry. Whereabouts? Not in America.
San Antonio. Yeah, the new AT&T Stadium.
Okay, all right, yep.
But just recently, do they sound good? Or do they sound old?
Yeah. No. They sound fantastic. Yeah, no, they do. As far as I'm concerned, as I said, I'd like to see them in the 70s. That is the pinnacle. But they don't sound any different since I've started seeing them. Certainly for this decade. They're as good as ever. They really are. And Mick, after his heart worries.
The press in '78 around some girls were starting to call them old and dinosaurs.
Yeah. Well, they got that in like 71 and 72 as well. That these guys will retire soon. The Beatles are gone, so they're not going to last. Charlie even predicted they wouldn't last. In the 60s, but the fans
Johnny
keep coming
and Co, is it? To calling them,
exactly.
dinosaurs.
Yeah, exactly. But the Stones keep going, and there's huge demand for them. Next year, I predict we will see them here. Hopefully, fingers crossed, health wise, everything goes well. I think they'll play Japan, Asia, Australia, and the trickle down. They'll come to New Zealand. So like we saw them in '95 in Auckland, we'll see them again in 2020 in Auckland at Easter.
What's the closest you've been to any of them? Have you had a conversation with any of them, and have you got them to sign something for you?
So I've talked a conversation as an exchange, a couple of sentences I have with Mick and Charlie a couple of times each, and Keith and Ronnie no, but I've had lots of wicked experiences in Melbourne one year. I think it was in 2003 on the Licks tour there. So they had the catwalk used to be a lot lower, and it is currently now and closer to the thing. And I was standing there, and I jump up and down a lot in the concert, so and anyway, so Ronnie came down the catwalk, and normally they walk down, they do high fives like this to people on either side. So Ronnie came down, he stopped, he reached out his hand down into the audience, shook my hand, and he had a guitar pick in his hand, and slid his hand out of mine and left the guitar pick in my hand. So,
wow.
So that's pretty cool. And another time there, my first overseas trip to see the Stones, I'd just been made redundant in Hamilton. I'd lost my job. I had a bit of cash in the pocket, and so I'd met another guy, Richard, actually in a bar in Auckland, which is another interesting story. Anyway, and so we went to LA and San Francisco to see the Stones on the Bridges tour. So 2 shows in each city, and we'd just been out. We got to LA. It was the first place we went to. Yeah, we went out record shopping that day, and we're staying on the Sunset Strip, and we were walking back from dinner to our hotel, and there's a whole crowd of people outside this restaurant. I forget what it's called, and we go, oh, who's in there? And these guys with record covers, professional autograph hunters. And the guy goes, oh, Rod Stewart. Oh, okay, cool. Probably Rachel's probably here. Yeah. So we carry on. And one of the guys runs after me, he goes, oh, and Ronnie Wood. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's awesome. And so our hotel luckily was like 100 meters away. So we went back there. We both that day bought 12-inch copies of Start Me Up, which is hard to get. We never had it really here with the hoof on it, the picture sleeve of that. So we'd been to one record store, we had those. We'd bought those. We took the records out. We came back, and there was probably a dozen professional hunters there with piles of albums. And we got back within 2 minutes. Ronnie and Rod stood at the front door of the restaurant, looking out, wondering what they were going to do. Where all these people there, their security came out. Rod came out with Rachel. They hopped into his Bentley. I think he had a red Bentley. They drove up. Ronnie came out and had a big white van. Oh, I don't know what a van. Got the photo of the van, and they signed no autographs. Neither of them signed any autographs. And he was sitting in the van, and Joe was here. And I leant in through the driver's door, how the door was open, and I leant in my best Kiwi accent and said, "Hey Joe, I've come all the way from New Zealand. Can you get Ronnie to sign my record covers for me, please?" And she goes, "Yeah, sure." And so I handed her the 2 copies of our 12-inch single. Ronnie signed them, gave them back to her. She gave them to me, and those are the only 2 autographs he did that night. So yeah.
Wow.
So,
otherwise, you'd be there all day, wouldn't you? You'd be there all night if you started that, wouldn't you? I can see why.
Yeah. So yeah. So these things happen occasionally. When I met Mick met him twice, talked to him twice in one day. Was in Amsterdam in '98 when the Football World Cup was on in France, and he'd left the hotel at like 2:00 in the afternoon to go to the game. So less fans here that day because they were watching the World Cup stuff. And so I got an autograph from him then as he hopped in the limo to go to the airport, and everyone kind of knew that he was going to the game. And then we went to the pub and watched the England match, and then a few of us came back and security said, "Oh, Mick's staying in Paris. And I didn't believe it. And slowly this crowd shrunk down to 4 of us. And I go, "Mick's not going to stay in Paris. He's got this beautiful hotel, the Amstel Hotel. He'll come back." Sure enough, 2:00 in the morning, there me, a girl from Eastern Europe, and 2 local Dutch guys. So 4 of us left, and Mick came back and he stopped and chatted to us, and talked about the game a little bit and the referee being an asshole and all that, and did another autograph and walked into the hotel. So
Wow.
So it was pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah.
I knew this guy. I was living. He taught me a few chords on the guitar. His name was Tony Della, and he collected F-hole guitars. And he was he drove up to Auckland to buy. No, he was an autograph hound. He collected F-hole guitars and got them autographed by famous musicians.
Okay.
I think it was 95. What was to it? Was that Bridget to Babylon or Voodoo Lounge?
Voodoo Lounge 95.
Okay. He was walking past a motel. I think Keith was in the lobby. Just pure luck.
So that would have been the Regent Hotel in Auckland here. in '95, and there was a guy there with a guitar. I remember getting on, and there was a guy I think with a car bonnet as well who gets them autographed. So that was either him or Australia.
Car bonnet. Would you sign this? That's tremendous. Yeah,
Richard,
that around.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you a couple of questions that the guys in the chat are asking? There's, do you know anything about 25x5? Why it never got a reissue, and are you expecting it to be reissued?
I would say it's all to do with record contracts and stuff like that. You know, it's like Rewind. Why did Rewind not come out again? Why is there no sequel to Rewind? Rewind was like my holy grail when it first came out. You know, 25x5 was brilliant as well. I guess one of the things with Mick is he doesn't like to look back too much. For sure, they re-released Satanic and Beggar's Banquet, and they deluxe up Some Girls and all that sort of stuff. But I think that's driven more by the record companies and video releases. I don't know. It's just there's probably less market for it.
25x5 was the VHS tape.
Yes. And also I have the laser disc of it as well.
Oh really?
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think so. Let's pull that puppy out.
Wow.
Oh wow.
The laser disc.
I actually have one here that's called a video disc, which is different to a laser disc, believe it or not. I don't know how, but it is, and you can't play it. And no, I don't have it.
Do you have a laser player, Richard?
Yeah, I have no way of playing. No, I don't have it, but I have seen it on laser discs. I have these ones here, 2 different versions of that. Give me shoulder for the left and the right. Voodoo Lounge action, some more Voodoo Lounge. But yeah, 25x5, yes, is on VHS, and I'm just looking for it. Yeah.
Richard, you've talked about Mick not wanting to sort of look back and stuff. Is that a reason why they haven't done much in the way of remastering and doing packages of their earlier albums?
Well, they are. They have been doing that actually. They've re-released Beggar's Banquet and Satanic Majesty. So they do that. But I guess I'm more when I'm saying that.
It's not like a program, though, is it?
No,
it's not like the Led Zeppelin thing where Jimmy Page has done all the albums and he's put extra tracks on and made a sort of marketing.
It's a little random, and there was talk that it's going. They're kind of doing it as a 50th anniversary thing. So, but they mix it all up. So this week, well, it's been known for a while, but we've got pictures as of today that they're going to release Bridges to Argentina. So the Bridges to Babylon show from Argentina. That was a pay-per-view show. It's going to be out on DVD, Blu-ray, CD, black vinyl, and blue vinyl. So.
Oh, cool! Yeah.
And I tend to buy on the vinyl. I will buy every format of it. So take some of the latest releases like Honk. I think they have 5 different sets of the vinyl for that, and I always buy anything that's Japanese because it's more deluxe than anything else. The packaging's nicer. It's on SHM CDs and the Blu-rays, and tends to, if anything's going to have bonus tracks, the Japanese versions will. So I tend to buy that, I don't buy everything of everything. But the vinyl I try.
Must be tempting.
Yeah, one's never enough, and it's always nice to get the rarer things, the more interesting things. Like just recently in Japan, they released for the very first time this year. They've released Sticky Fingers with the Spanish cover, which you will have seen, but with the Spanish track listing. Okay, and also they've released on CD, and they've also released Time Waits for No One on CD, only in Japan, and it's the first time that's ever been released on CD. Previously, only on vinyl from back in the day.
Wow.
So,
right.
Do you own an original Brian Jones signature?
No, I don't. Do you?
No. But
Here's one of my things too. So this is, and I don't know if I'm going to stick with rule number one that I live by in my collecting is never, ever, ever, ever buy an autograph. Never. I have once because it was a Mick Taylor. It's Honky Tonk Woman 7-inch and it says to Richard Mick Taylor. It was in a store in London. But anyone who tries to sell it, never ever buy a guitar that is autographed by the Rolling Stones, especially if it has a certificate of authenticity with it. 99.9% chances it's fake. If you're buying an autograph, you want to buy it off the guy who got it or his mother's next door neighbor who got it and there's a story with it, not from a charity auction. There's so many people putting them up on eBay or Trade Me. I bought one that's in a charity auction when I was drunk and I paid $10,000. I need some money now. I'll let it go for $5,000. Mate, the guitar's worth $500. It's $500 that someone scribbled on it, so it's almost worthless.
It's a bit like Richard, you know the story about the Beatles, about George Harrison could sign all the Beatles autographs.
Right.
Yeah, the others whispering.
Oh,
no, I was just thinking.
Right.
George Harrison used to. He
I
used to
heard
sign
that
all the
story,
Beatles.
yes.
Yeah, I might
Yes.
have done them all. Yes, it's lovely. Yes,
but at least that's still within the family, you know.
Well, yes,
It's not
yes.
some guy in the back office.
Yeah.
You know?
Is it a real signature? Well,
because in all my record collecting days, I was always a bit like yourself, wary of autographs because A, they wanted 10 times too much for them, and B, can you really be sure?
Yep. Not unless you've got them yourself or you know the guy who's got them, you know. Just don't go there. It's just too messy. On my Facebook group, is the thing that causes the most controversy. I've got this autograph. I paid it for it. I've got a certificate of authenticity from a reputable broker. Oh my God! So yeah, I'm making money. You know, I get the bloody certificate out of a Weet-Bix box. It means nothing, and generally it shows that it's fake. You know. So,
yeah.
Just don't buy autographs.
That's a good point. You're smart.
Don't buy them. You just don't buy them. You know?
Yeah. Unless you've got them yourself, they're not worth anything.
Yeah. Or you know the person who got them. You know, you're friends with them, or I worked with a lady. She had Brian Jones's autograph. She had written a letter to the fan club in the '60s, and for sure they might have had the secretary of the fan club signing them, but. That's at least, you know, worth something arguably
close
on it, you know. So
yeah, sure.
And then you see the odd one, you know. You hear I haven't heard the odd story of, you know, something that came in like stick fingers and Brian Jones has signed it, you know, or it's done in permanent mark, you know, 12x5 done with a Sharpie, you know, with a gold Sharpie, you know, like
not invented until 1982. Yes.
Yeah, there was no Sharpie then, you know, so. Yeah.
Oh dear.
They just don't buy autographs, you know. It's a no-go zone for me. I have some, but I've collected them myself, you know. So.
Yeah.
I've got another question I need to ask you, Richard, from Dave. Dave, he's asking, do you know anything about any future releases? Have you heard anything? Have you got some heads up for us there, Richard?
Well, we've got the Argentina release coming out. Okay, so that's coming out later on. Coming out in what are we now? Either October or November. I always get confused with a 10/11 or 11/10, depending on what country you know the date is. But yeah, coming up in the next month or so, it's going to be the Argentinian release. In terms of new material, we've been hearing this forever. You know, 2006 was the last studio album, so I believe they have a lot of songs. A friend of mine actually, the manager of the Wiggles in Australia, he's a big Stones.
The Wiggles.
He was at a conference or something in America earlier this year, and Don Was was a presenter, or he was at a meeting with Don Was, and Don Was was talking and said they've got all this stuff done, but nothing's finished and no idea when it'll be done. You know, so there will be a new album as per Elvis and Hendrix. They'll eventually keep releasing albums forever. You know, but So there will be a new studio album. I suspect. I have no reason to believe that it won't happen. It's just a matter of when. And as for live stuff, they've recorded every show since at least from the mid-90s, I think, Voodoo Lounge onwards, I understand. Every show gets recorded, so they could release a show every week for the next 10 years. So
They do, don't they?
So
They
there's
do
no
release
shortage
some
of-
live shows.
No
don't-
shortage of stuff to spend your money on.
No. I bought the
When,
I bought the Brussels. I bought the live in Brussels, 72 live Brussels from
Oh,
the
the
Rolling Stones
Brussels
site.
Affair, yeah.
Yeah, the Brussels Affair.
Yep,
Yeah.
nice.
I bought that from the Rolling Stones site, and I don't think it currently is available, but it was for a while.
So you bought the big box with the red bag?
No, I just bought the download. It's
Okay, right, okay. Yep.
yeah, just because it's really good.
Yes.
a couple of things when it comes to the world of collecting. I had a friend that was a big Stones fan, but he got right into bootlegs. Did you ever get into bootlegs, Richard? I didn't. Oh, you did.
I have probably a few hundred of them on CD, and most of them are burnt CDs, so they're CDRs. So in collector world, they're worthless, So they are the music. Bootlegs are not my thing. It's rule number 2. Don't ever pay too much for a bootleg.
Yeah.
Some people, I've got lots of friends who that's their thing. Is bootlegs. They want every studio song or different version or live, and each to their own. But it's not me, and I don't place a great deal of value on a bootleg. It's
Me
if
too.
it's not
I
if it has a little R on it, then I'll buy it if it was a show I was at, or it's particularly nice. But once again, back in the day, at the real groovy days in the 90s, that's all we could get. I was buying them because, wow, it's a Stones album, something different. So, but now I take it, and everything's available. All the bootleggy stuff's available online, and there's a guy here in New Zealand actually who makes the best bootleg. Basically, every concert they do, he will make a video of that concert. So he will go scour YouTube and grab all the different audience bits, Brown Sugar, all the different people who've recorded Brown Sugar, and mix them all together. Super pro. So you're getting the camera angles from different bits, and he'll obviously choose the one with the best audio. So anything you like that you can easily find, But so I don't spend money on bootlegs. Is where I'm at these days.
Yeah, I never got into bootlegs either. I thought to myself, two things with bootlegs. As fascinating as they are with these rare shows, but the audio quality was generally always terrible.
Yeah, generally, yes.
Yeah.
One more thing. When Keith fell out of that coconut tree in Fiji and got airlifted to Auckland, did you sneak into the hospital to try and get to talk to him or anything? Or
I didn't, but I can tell you a story. But I won't name names. But let's just say I had a friend who should know better, and also who had something round and shiny that he could flash, and he made his way to the top floor. But then the Stone security kicked him out. So there are lots of stories. I've heard all sorts. So some of the key stories I've heard around this. So a friend, his mate was the gardener out the back. Keith would come out the back, would give him some money to go and buy some art supplies to do some painting, buy some weed. Okay, so they could smoke upstairs in the top floor of the hospital. Other stories was that Patty would come in with bottles of 42 Below vodka. I'm not sure if it was every day, and Keith would be drinking. So basically, it was party central upstairs for Keith. The other thing, I worked with a guy whose sister-in-law was one of the theatre nurses there, and she said that Keith was one of the few people in the world who could have survived this because he had an extra large space between his brain and his skull, so there was room for his brain to swell. It would have killed a normal person, but for whatever reason, Keith's brain was smaller or his skull was bigger, however you want to read that, and he had room for
Just
it.
the 9 lives.
Survived it. So there are lots of Keith stories out there.
Do you have that newspaper clipping in New Zealand from 95, the Voodoo Lounge, and it said, drugs Keith has tried and drugs Keith probably hasn't tried yet, which was cyanide, glue, DDT.
Yeah.
Do you have that newspaper or that article? Or?
Possibly. I have a box file from each tour, so the Voodoo Lounge one, I have quite a few of them. So, yeah.
My favourite, Richard, my favourite one, I'm old, you see, so from the 70s. In the 70s, it always said that once a year, Keith went to Switzerland to have his blood changed entirely.
Yes.
It sadly isn't true, but it's such a great rock and
No,
roll
it's not
story.
true from what I understand.
No, it's not true. But yeah, I can remember reading that in the 70s in the NME or something.
That myth still carries on. There are people out there who still repeat it.
Still believe it's true.
Yeah.
Is that
should be.
myth true about the doctor said, Keith, I'll give you 6 months, and then 6 months later, Keith was at the doctor's funeral?
Yeah. I don't know about that story, but I've heard that one. Yes. Yeah. Well, Keith, as I say to everyone, Keith's going to outlive us all, isn't he? If he hasn't died already, where's he going? He's not going anywhere soon, is he? You know.
Wow.
So
there's all those jokes.
What are they going to
about
do with
that,
his body? What are they going to do with his body? They're going to have to. It's going to be like a mummy from Egypt. They'll wrap it, right? They'll send it to.
well, possibly. Yeah. Scientists would love to get hold of it, you know. But the other story is people say he should do like a Jane Fonda workout video, you know, because like exercise and how to stay healthy. You know? So,
have you seen that? Those YouTube videos of Keith de-drugged, where they took the drugs out of him and they did like really frilly versions of Satisfaction. Let's spend the night together.
No, I haven't.
It's on
that sounds
YouTube.
funny.
It's really funny. It's called Keith
Yeah.
Undrugged.
Okay, all right. I'll have a look.
But Keith to this day is sober now, isn't he? Completely.
I believe he's sober, and they say he doesn't drink. But I always wonder about he doesn't drink by Keith Richards standards. Maybe he just drinks by our standards. You know. So,
Well, he did say.
I
I
imagine
remember reading recently.
there's
Like
the
he'd
idea.
said he'd given it
Mick
up.
drinks. Sorry.
I read recently that he said that basically it had given him up. You know.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, not the other way around. It had given him up. Interestingly, and he'd like have the occasional glass. You know. But yeah. I guess I agree. By Keith's standards, just a half a bottle of Jack Daniels for breakfast.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't think Ron Wood can drink at all. He could
He's an
die.
alcoholic.
Yeah, no, Ronnie doesn't drink. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Just
And
coffee.
he's got a lot to live. He's got young twin girls now, so he's he's a. I don't know if you saw his basketball shot on YouTube the other day. From like halfway on a
Phenomenal.
basketball court,
Behind his
the ball
back.
on the ground facing away from the hoop, and picks it up and throws it over the back of his head, and it goes in. You know.
Yep.
So
Do you own any of Ron Wood's original art pieces?
no, I don't. And to be perfectly honest, it's a whole another thing here. It doesn't appeal to me. I can't afford it, and B, if I could, I would rather buy something else. I have lots. I have several friends who that is their Stones collection is Ron Wood art. And they're very affluent people, and they have multiple Ron Wood art. They don't have any of his crap. They don't want any of the crap that I have. They want their Ronnie Wood art, and that each to their own, you know. And that doesn't do it for me. But good on them.
Because he did the famous Crossroads Eric Clapton sketch, eh?
Did he just on okay? I didn't know that.
Which
It's
is
probably
amazing.
well, it'll be in his book, isn't it? And Ronnie Wood the Works, yeah. So yeah.
Wow.
What did you think of Keith Richards' biography when it came out, Richard? Did you devour it within so many days? Do you have an opinion on that book?
I think with as per everything about Keith Richards, there's a little bit of myth and fantasy to it, but I think it's genuinely, sincere, because he doesn't paint himself to be the nicest guy all the time in it, So I think he's been quite honest. So, some very interesting little stories in there, and his little needles in his hat and blah blah blah, and whatever. So yeah.
Are you? I know that you collect obviously memorabilia, but there's a little bit of publicity, a little bit of media stuff with Brian Jones and reopening the case and all that sort of stuff, and a movie and some books and interviews. Does that sort of thing? Are you interested in that sort of thing, or are you a bit like me? You kind of know what happened and you just moved on.
Yeah, I guess I'm like that. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there, and there are lots of different stories. And did he drown while under the influence of drugs and alcohol? Yeah, probably. Was there a foot involved by someone else? Maybe. I don't know. But of course, I'll watch it all and I'll be interested in it. And I don't know if we'll ever get the real truth. And Brian, perhaps wasn't the nicest guy in the world. I'm not saying anything bad should have happened to him, but it's just, I don't know. It's a sad story, and there's lots of sad stories around the Stones, and including fans and things. I've had friends who have, it's some sad stories, but you meet amazing people.
There's a couple of
who
other.
go to every show. Sorry.
there's a couple of other questions I need to ask you from guys in the chat, Richard. The early Stones catalogue obviously is owned by Alan Klein's organisation. Do you ever think that the Stones will get that back, get control of that catalogue?
I don't think so. I think it's Alan Klein's kids, so they'll be getting on now themselves a bit. But they'll have kids, so why would you sell the cash cow? So the Stones have used bits of that at times. You know, when they've done the odd compilation album, there's obviously been a deal between Universal and ABCO. So will they? I don't know. I don't think Mick once again cares too much, you know, about that. Yeah. Where I see Mick at for things is he likes to be the first. He likes to be new. He likes to be adventurous. He likes doing, you know, the things that are different. He likes his solo album stuff. He liked the super heavy album stuff, different things, and hence why I predict that they will play Japan and that they will open the Olympic Stadium and be the first band to play there, because Mick likes to be first there. He likes the records. He likes being number one in the stats and things. He's never the biggest in album sales and things like that. But if the Stones can be first to open there, as they were for the Adelaide Oval and bits and pieces, as they were. For those ones there where no man's gone before, and so I predict that the Stones will open. It's my big prediction. Will open for open the Olympic Stadium in Tokyo next year, prior to the Olympics.
Can I ask you a question, Richard? So, getting back to Mick being the guy that wants to be first. So, who was responsible for the concept behind Blue and Lonesome? In the band, and why didn't the band record or film that process of them recording that album in the studio, and make it available for us on DVD? It would have been a perfect opportunity for us to see them in the studio. For sure. I think because it wasn't planned, it was just them, you know, cutting out, just playing a few tracks, just warm. Keith quote is warming up the room, I think. So, you know, they maybe got to a point where for the new studio album where they hit a dry patch or whatever, and so they just wanted to warm up this room, and they wanted to do some standards and get into the groove. So they played some blues tracks, and Ronnie or someone suggested something else, and they did something else. So in the space of 3 days, I think they recorded the whole thing. So it was kind of, you know, I guess the tape's running constantly. You know, it was never a plan, and then kind of like, oh, we've got these many tracks, maybe we do a couple more, or maybe we make an album and we'll put it out, and oh my God, it's number one everywhere in the world, you know. So I think they were hugely surprised by it. You know, it was not the plan. You know, didn't go in there, let's go make a blues album. So
I was at the gym today, and Just Your Fool came on the radio.
Okay, yeah, nice.
Like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
It was refreshing. It was just refreshing.
Do you guys like Blue and Lonesome? What are your thoughts?
Love it.
You love it?
Yeah. Love it. They sound good. The guitars, you can hear the different guitars. It's just it's phenomenal. It's and it's what the Rolling Stones have done right from the word go, Richard. They've never bullshitted and lied to us. They've made it very clear right from the word go that they were a blues band, that they're following these blues guys, and this is our version of it. And 50 odd years later, they dished it up again and said, this is where we came from.
Yeah, for sure. This is what we can do. Yep. So
proving they're a great blues band. You know, rock and roll band.
They're a fantastic blues band. Yeah, and Jagger's a fantastic harp player, isn't he?
Phenomenal. Awesome? Blew me away. That harp.
He was Mick Jagger was involved with you probably know this, Richard, a band that my uncles knew about, the Californian blues band, the Blue Devils.
Yeah, the Red Devils.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And he was, I think he produced it or sung on.
No, he did. He recorded. There's a bootleg, I think, with which I might have, which has him with them actually playing, but as opposed to the album you're referring to, is I think he's the producer or something like that. So yeah.
Still doing it, yeah. Richard,
Yeah.
When did you first see the Stones? What was your first Stones gig?
My first Stone show was Auckland '95. So.
Okay.
And we were very lucky. They played two shows there back to back. Basically, it was a day in between. I forget, back to back, and Sunday, Monday, I think. And we got 8 different songs from one night to the next. Sorry.
Did you feel like a 17-year-old teenager? Were you crying and fainting?
Oh, yeah, of course I was, especially after the last one. Like, I might never see them again, I saw Jagger in '88 and I was like in tears after that because I'm never going to see the Stones, This is as good as it's going to get. And then...
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So technically 78 was the first time, that was your first Jagger gig?
95.
Oh, I did the Stones one. Yeah.
But 88 before Jagger.
Yeah, you got to remember in New Zealand, time, the Stones didn't come from 1973 to '95. They hadn't come, so 22 years of no Stones. Which is just a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I always thought, as you're probably thinking now, that he's such a late starter. And I thought, oh my God, I wish I'd been born 10 years earlier. I've seen them in the '60s or '73. But in actual fact, I've seen more than half their career.
Yeah.
From 95 onwards, they'd only just started.
Richard.
I'm always talking about that in terms of time. 95 is 25 years ago. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's the same distance in time as Elvis Presley was to 1980.
Yeah.
If you think about what happened between 1955 and 1980, the musical thing that went on then, it's just incredible. So.
Can you tell us how many gigs you've been to, Richard?
54 Rolling Stone shows now.
So you obviously travel, Richard. You go to America or whatever to see them.
Yeah, I go. Mick Jagger's my tour guide. I go where Mick goes. So.
What's the closest you've been to them, like as far as rows, and what's the most furthest away?
Well, I'm normally these days I'm front row, and so yeah. Normally front row, or these days they have a pit and they have a catwalk. So I'm on the side. I prefer, rather than what you'd call the front, they have the catwalk, but I ideally against the rail and in the corner, but fractionally back a bit, so you can see Charlie a little bit.
Do you buy your tickets like 6 months in advance to make sure you get those good seats? Do you, or?
Well, the better shows are generally GA and are standing, so it's a matter of getting up early and getting there. You have to buy to be within a certain area, and seated. Well, Auckland 2014 is a classic case. I bought when the tickets first went on sale for Auckland. I bought the VIP tickets. They were whatever they were a lot of money, and I got the second row, and everybody in the world would be extremely happy they had second row to the Stones. I was still gutted that I was going to have to stand behind anyone, especially in my town, to see my band play, and so so on the day that the tickets then went on, that was online sale. No, it was through the fan club or whatever, the pre-sale or whatever, I forget. And then, but on the day that it went on sale, I went old school, and I went into Aotea Square and lined up there. Went at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was first in the queue. Got in. The lady at the thing pull up the computer. I can get you row 5. I can get you row 10. Oh, no, it's all right. Okay, there were half a dozen people behind me. I can't just stay here all day getting her to keep looking for a way. And so I let these other people go through, and I went back, and then at 9:20, there was no one, there'd only been, everyone was buying it online, and this is 2014. And so I went back to the woman there, and she was very nice, and obviously knew I was a bit odd and a freak. So anyway, she kept trying, blah, 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 blah. And then, I think she couldn't get anything. And I left her my business card, my phone number, and I've gone back to my car, and then my phone rings, and she goes, I've got 2 tickets in row A. Would you like them?
Wow.
Yeah, and so I said I only need 1, and so I bought the ticket in row A, and it was slightly more centre. I wasn't where I was not bad. It was like 10 from the catwalk in row 2, and I ended up like 6 from the catwalk in the front row. And I said and then I sold the other ticket to a mate in Aussie. So
wow.
Richard, I have another question. from Dave. Dave, he wants to know your favourite books and stone resources and websites.
Okay. Well, the only website I use is one called IORR. It's only rock and roll. Okay.
Yep.
So, which is run by Bjornif out of Norway. That's the best fan website for any information. In terms of books, I have a couple of books. If I'm wanting to know about songs, there's books by Martin Elliott. So I'm actually in mentioning those. But Martin Elliott, he's gone song by song and the recording process and a bit about the song and stuff like that. I think the complete recording sessions, I think it's called. So I think we're up to the third iteration of that. So
that'll be the one.
Yep, that's the one there. So if you look in there, you'll see my name in there. Okay.
Wow.
I'll be credited in there.
Can I send it to you to get you to autograph it?
I'll even make you a certificate of authenticity out of my Weet-Bix box.
Certificate of inauthenticity.
What a way to devalue the book.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. So Martin, I've met Martin once, I think. Yeah, but he's a hell of a nice guy. So
what was the actor's name in Performance?
James Fox.
Oh, James. So no relation?
No. Performance.
Hey, real quick, talking about Mick Jagger and his acting career.
Yeah. Please. Do we have to?
He was pretty average, but the Man from Elysian Fields wasn't bad.
Okay.
What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Elysian Fields.
It's a great movie.
It wasn't my cup of tea, but
Yeah. I've never seen Ned Kelly. I've never seen Performance. What other?
Yeah. I like Ned Kelly better than Performance. Performance is a bit arty for me. I'm not. My favourite Stones movie, am I allowed to say, is Running Out of Luck, which is the Jagger one from She's the Boss and all the songs put together and him running around with scantily clad women in South America,
Slightly sacrilegious.
Yeah. So,
Wow. And have you been to Bill Wyman's Sticky Fingers restaurant?
I have. I went to the one in Cambridge in the UK a little bit before it closed down. There was one in Manchester. I never got there. And I've been to the one in London a couple of times. Yeah.
And
that the London one still exists. Sorry?
Would you have liked to done any trades with Billy?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he's got a couple of good things there. Yeah. So yeah.
Couple of decent bits.
The most recent dealings I've had with Bill Wyman is via a friend of mine in Australia who's good friends with Bill Wyman, and I draw maps for a living, and I actually drew a map of everywhere the Stones had played in the world, and I sent a copy to my friend Steve in Australia, and he forwarded it on to Bill, and he said Bill was very happy to get it. So yeah.
So Bill owns a piece of your work.
He does indeed, and I didn't autograph it either. Okay, I didn't want to devalue it
with a certificate.
Yeah.
Well, I quite like Bill in the sense that, as far as the band was concerned, he was very analytical and kept a great journal, and was very.
Yes.
We need to thank him for all of his good work.
We do. I have to say that. Well, I don't have to say, but I'll say, to be honest, I'm not a huge Wyman fan these days. I've read a couple of articles where he slags the Stones, and to me, he would be nobody without being a Stone,
Yeah.
So that doesn't work for me,
I think he's just trying to take the side of Brian.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Don't mess with the glimmer. Don't mess with the glimmer.
Dave is he's seen the Bill Wyman documentary. Have you seen it, Richard?
No, I haven't. It hasn't come here that I'm aware of, and I don't know if it's online or not. Can you ask Dave if it's online?
Yeah, he got a VPN thing on his computer because
Yeah.
he's in the UK and watched
Yeah.
it on YouTube or something like that, where
Okay.
it's streaming on.
Yeah, I should hunt it down. There's a good job for tomorrow. Okay, I'll get my people onto it.
Yeah. He was a little bit disappointed by it
Research
because a lot of the footage in the film we've seen before, and there's a
Okay.
few shots where you can see Bill sitting there in his office, and he's just surrounded by boxes and files
Mhm.
of
Yes.
of
Yeah.
information
I've seen
and
the promo
recordings.
clip. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
wouldn't it be great to get hold of that?
Yeah. Fantastic. I would. Yeah, that would be one thing. But if I could do anything, it would be to get into those vaults of the stones. All that unreleased material and stuff like that.
Richard,
Yeah.
I
That
had
would shake up
the Beggars Banquet famous photo of them looking like beggars in the castle, which
Yep.
was the middle shot for the album. And
Yep.
they're dressed up like medieval guys.
Yes.
I
Like a
owned an original. I owned an original outtake photo of that, a variation
Okay.
of that photo, slightly different, rumored to have been owned by Marianne Faithfull.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I at one
You
time
did own it, or you do own it?
I fell on hard times and sold it.
Okay. All right. Mhm.
But
With
that
all
was
the
one of
authenticity certificates.
Yeah.
my- that was one of my claims to fame. Was I owned something that Marianne Faithfull had owned.
Nice.
Pretty neat.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Richard, what's in the Rolling Stones vaults?
As in physically what they have in London, you mean, type thing, or
Y-
or
do,
you
do,
mean
do,
in,
do you know what they've
Because-
got? Have you heard what's in their vaults?
well, other than they've recorded everything from the mid '90s onwards, every concert, so they'll have all of that will be in the vault, and then there'll be various outtakes from bits and pieces that they've recorded along the way. So
Yeah.
there could be all sorts of things.
Andrew,
It's almost
Andrew and I had
depressing
a
to
bit
think
of
about
fun.
it. You what?
Andrew and I had a bit of fun over the last 8 years. I've come out with a lot more, all with similar artwork, like Live at Leeds '82, which
Yes.
was a fantastic show.
Yes.
I
I get a credit on that album.
Yeah.
Who did?
I do. On the Leeds '82 album, it's my only credit on an official Stones item, but I get if you look inside that, if you've got the DVD there or the CD or the LP, you'll have a look on the back page and it'll say, thanks for additional memorabilia, Matt Lee and Richard Fox.
Really?
On Leeds '82. You want me to show you?
Do you get any royalties from that?
Yeah.
No. This is the Rolling Stones, Carl.
So we've got Leeds. And we can open this up. And the reason I'm on here is because of this patch here, okay? I supplied a high-resolution picture of this patch. I have it on my jacket, which next to my 73 poster is my next Holy Grail, which we can discuss the jacket but anyway, later. But if you go to the back here, and I haven't got my glasses, but somewhere and where it says the credits, where are my glasses? Let me find so I can point to the exact line on here. Second to last line here. So it's just underneath my finger. Can you see that?
Wow.
Closer, Richard.
Additional memorabilia, Matt Lee and Richard Fox.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hold on.
Too bad for me, but
So yeah.
So,
That must have been a proud moment.
Yeah, it was amazing. You've got it there yourself, or is that my video?
It would have been even better if Mick had said, "We're in Auckland.
Where's he
We've
gone?
got a big fan here, Richard Fox. Come up on stage and sing."
Yeah, no.
can you see it? Can you see it?
Yep, I can see it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. thought you disappeared.
Come and sing back up to Tumbling Dice, Richard.
I don't sing or play any instruments. I have zero musical ability. So, yeah.
We're all gifted in different ways.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'll show you my jacket because this is next to my Kiwi 73 poster. This is kind of the holy grail and is
Look at that voodoo
relatively
lounge.
famous.
The Prince of the Voodoo Lounge.
This jacket here, which is a
Holy shit.
weighs
It's
many
growing.
kilos. So and it's autographed as well. So this is one of the autographs Mick did in Amsterdam at night in '98 in here. Keith autographed it in Auckland here after he had fallen out of the coconut tree. Charlie autographed it in Amsterdam as well, and the rest was like Chuck Lavelle, Lisa, Bernard, and all those guys. Yeah, and they did that in Edinburgh, I think, for me. So
Can,
yeah, this
can we
is
see the front
my-
again, please, Richard?
you can.
Wow.
Far out. How do you wash that?
I don't.
You don't.
Yeah. I bought this in '97 in London, in LA, in Hollywood, and started adding badges to it. And you start with one or two, and before you know it, it's got a bit out of control again. And yeah, so it's priceless. And it's so that's cool. But what's even happened just recently in the last year or so, an Argentinian guy's written a book on Rolling Stones fans from around the world. And he used a photo of my jacket for the cover of his book.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. So this
Oh,
is
yeah,
this
there
has
is,
just come
yeah.
out in the last couple of months. So yeah, he used that as the cover. And I met him last week in Miami for the first time, the author. And prior to that, actually, I'd got a copy by another friend, by an autographed copy, and autographed.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry. Here we go. I didn't pay for the autograph. Okay, so yeah, all for the book.
With you going to a Rolling Stones concert, it was a bit like me when in Austin with the record fair. I used to love collecting records.
Yeah. World famous, that one.
I couldn't sleep the night before. Are you a bit like that with the Rolling Stones show? You can't sleep the night before?
I used to be. I'm less so now. I'm less nervous about it. I used to be. And maybe for certain shows I would be. For club shows I would be. If there was another club show, I would be.
Yeah.
But I know how the systems work so well now. I know where I want to be. I know how I have to get there. I know what to do. I know the right people. So
Is there
I'm a lot more relaxed about it.
Do you wear a particular style of clothes, like Rolling Stones sort of clothes, or casual garb?
Whenever I go to any show outside of Australia or New Zealand, I always wear this. So any show anywhere else in the world.
Oh wow!
So with the fern tongue on it.
Wow, yeah.
So yeah, you'll see me wearing this at every concert anywhere outside Australia, New Zealand. And if they come to here, I'll wear something that's completely outrageous and different again that you won't see here. Like I think on the last tour when they came here in 2014, I was wearing one of these two shirts here from Steel Wheel shirts. So you won't see anyone else wearing one of these. So
Wow.
The few
so, yeah,
times.
so something like that probably.
Yeah.
But and outside of Australia and New Zealand, it's always the New Zealand shirt, So
Okay.
proud to be a Kiwi.
Good on
Yeah.
you, man. Good on you.
Yeah. There's that famous shot of I think it was 1982, where the Stones rolled up to some just small English pub and did an indoor show, and about 30 people in the audience, a warm-up show for the 81 tour.
Okay.
82. Or,
82 in Europe, yep.
it was just incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, imagine the Glue Pot show and here in Auckland, I'm so gutted that I didn't know about that. There was no internet back in those days when Jagger played the Glue Pot in '88.
Who did?
So he played Western Springs on the 5th of November '88, but 2 nights before on the Thursday night, he did an impromptu show at the Glue Pot here in
Just
Auckland.
Really?
A warm-up
Yeah,
show
Yeah, warm-up show.
with his band.
So I've met a few people who've been who were at it, but I think it was maybe advertised on Hauraki, that afternoon or something, and or maybe under a false name. I can't quite remember. And I've got a couple of newspaper cuttings on it. So
he had Jeff Beck on parts of that tour. Is that right? Or
he did have he's on the not here, no, but he's on the album and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So now we had the pleasure of Joe Satriani.
Does
Whoops.
that go well? Does that go well, Joe Satriani? Possibly.
Some people liked it.
Not so well by the sound of it. Joe Satriani's a long way from Keith Richards, isn't he? That's for sure.
Yeah, a little bit. So yes.
Mick's interesting, eh? He teams up with Adam Levine and Christina Aguilera and Lenny Kravitz and Justin Trudeau and a whole bunch of these people, you know.
Yeah, no, Mick loves all the new music and young and hip, and as I said, he's always looking forward. Keith wants to play with the old Black Blues guys, you know, but Mick's happy to have whoever's flavour of the day on stage with him. So.
Well, we've got Mick to thank for stuff like Miss You and
don't we just
Disco Beats and stuff like Emotional Rescue.
I love Emotional Rescue.
Yeah.
So
because Keith's more than happy to go back to a hotel room, play his guitar, and probably do other stuff. And Mick's more than happy to go to the nightclubs, disco, and find out what's happening.
Yes, he is. Yes, exactly. Very much so. And Mick will go to the museums. I think Keith very seldom leaves his hotel room on tour. You know, very seldom do you hear reports that they were out to dinner or something. But I've been in places. I remember in Argentina, we went to a place in Argentina, and some of my friends had been to a restaurant. And that same night, or was it even the night we were there? No, the Stones had been at the same restaurant, just in a different room. You know.
Oh, so. There's a famous story, Richard. Oh, you probably would have heard about it. I think when Mick was here in 2014, where in Russell, of all places, he was in a bar.
Yes. Yeah. After the tour, he was up there. Yep.
But he specifically told the waitress or the bar manager for no one to bother him.
Yes. Yep, for sure. Well, here's another story. I was in New York. My first trip to New York was a month ago now, I guess, for the Stones. So I went to New York, and we'd been at a Bill German book reading. I don't know if you know who Bill German is, but anyone who's into the Stones, Bill German's one of the most famous Stones fans in the world. He's got a whole story I can tell you briefly, but anyway, we can go back to that. But anyway, so we'd been at a Bill German book reading, me and I think there were 50 odd people, and I knew 2/3 of these people, and about 15 of us went out for dinner afterwards, and then people went separate ways and things, and there was down to a group of 4 of us, and we asked one of our New York friends, where's a rooftop bar? We want to go to a rooftop bar, you know, and she rang her daughter and said, obviously, you know, knew where we were, and said, there's this rooftop bar, go down here. So we cruised down to this rooftop bar overlooking Central Park. We went up there. It was called The Roof. It used to be the Viceroy Hotel. I forget what it's called now. We'd been there. So there's 4 of us, a friend from Romania, and 2 Aussies, and a German lady. I forget if she was there at that stage. And so we're in there. We've been there a couple of hours, and we're about to leave. And my friend looks up and goes, "Mixed here." of all the bars in New York, like, you know, there must be thousands of them. Jagger walks into the bar that we're in. Him and his girlfriend, another couple, and his bodyguard. And he walks in, and he walks past us, and my Aussie mate was much faster than I was, and didn't have a Stones t-shirt on. I did. And he stood up and walked straight in behind Mick and through the door, and sort of bumped into him and tapped him on the shoulder, "Excuse me," kind of thing, and went past him. And so Mick went in, he sat down in the booth there. No one bothered him. The security guard sort of recognised us, I think, and sort of gave us the, you know, don't touch kind of look. And so we didn't. And it's a no-go zone. And it's a whole other thing. You know, there are people who'll go up to him. I will talk to Mick. You know, if I bumped into Mick in the lift, or he's out on the street, or was walking to his car, or something like that, I would talk to him, or whatever. He's sitting in a bar. He's sitting in a restaurant. He's engaged in conversation with other people. It's a no-go zone, you know. You don't go and talk to them there. So, but yeah, I did go to the bathroom. I did go to the bathroom 3 times, so I could walk back and forth. And each time you come out of the bathroom, he was sitting there facing straight to us, animated and leading the conversation. And you know, he had a beer, and they left. He was there for half an hour, and oh my god, you know. So,
I'm a bit like
pretty cool.
And I'm pretty sure Simon's
Richard,
the same.
Tell us about Bill.
Watching all the old interviews, random interviews in Paris, and there's one at Keith. They interview Keith, and he's in Paris at a nightclub the bar about 2 a.m. He said he's a vampire and you never see him during the day. Just all these amazing. But it just amazes me how terrible these reporters are with stupid questions.
Yeah.
I mean, just so many
Is this
stupid.
the last time? Yeah.
Sorry?
Is this the last time? Is this the last time?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, you want to hear about Bill German?
Yeah. Tell us. He wrote a book.
Some books.
So you just Googled all that, I take it? So Bill German basically was a 17-year-old kid in New York, Jewish family or whatever, liked the Rolling Stones, heard some songs from his sister's record player or whatever. But he was at high school, 17-ish, wanting to be a journalist or something like that, and he had heard that the Stones were staying at such and such a hotel, so he went down there and might have seen them or something, and then he started making a fanzine. So he'd go back up to school after hours and print it, I guess, on one of those old smelly round wheelie things that we used to have when I was at primary school, showing my age. And so he'd print off maybe half a dozen copies and give them to his friend and say, Mick was here this night and Keith was spotted at a party here, and he'd heard all this stuff, and slowly it started to expand, and more friends would go, bring him up, I hear the Stones are staying here, or he knew someone who was the doorman at a hotel and say, the Stones are here, or whatever. And so he'd cruise over and he'd maybe take a photo of them coming or leaving or whatever, and slowly he started to do more and more of this, and then he'd produce his fanzine more and more, and then he produced it to it was getting better quality. It's still or letter set or stencil titles and gluing, cut and paste, as in cut and paste in the old days, as in making it up properly and then photocopying it. And then it got to the point where he'd go there and he'd hand Ronnie a copy of it or Keith a copy of it. And one story, so he handed Ronnie a copy, and then Ronnie and Keith hopped in this car and they wound down the window, and as they drove off, Ronnie was talking to Keith and pointing at Bill going, this is the guy who just gave me this, and then eventually he started getting the odd photo with them holding his fanzine. And then at one stage, if you got undercover on LP, actually from America, it's got a thing there. His thing was called Beggars Banquet, his fanzine, and then the Stones approached him, do you want to kind of be our official fanzine kind of guy? And so then he ended up producing this for the Stones, following them around the world a little bit and making fanzine. They were seen here and then promoting a little bit of album stuff. And he got to the point, so I guess he's early 20s now or whatever, and the Stones, Mick and Keith, are living in New York. And so he'd end up at Ronnie Wood's house at 2 o'clock. He'd go to Ronnie Wood's house. Ronnie would invite him over. They'd be in the basement. Ronnie would be playing his guitar. Bill would just be hanging out. The door would knock at 2 o'clock in the morning. Keith would walk in. And so there'd be Keith and Ronnie in Ronnie's basement recording, and Bill German, this just 20-year-old punk kid from New York City, just sitting there watching these guys recording and chatting and smoking and doing what else. And he never got involved in any of the drugs or any of the womanizing or anything like that. And he was just hanging out. He was just on the fringe of it. And just the amazing life, And one night he was saying he'd got invited up to Jagger's place and he'd spilled a drink on Jagger's carpet, and it was just. And another time Mick was quite, I didn't like what you wrote about me and stuff like that. And it's just amazing story, how some kid got so into the Stones, and then the big deal is he got out of it alive, because lots of people, the Graham Parsons of this world, lots of people have gone into the Stones orbit and they don't come out, they can't keep up.
So do you rate his book? I've never read his book.
Yeah, no, I love his book. I love his book. I have over 300 books on the Stones, and to be perfectly honest, I haven't read most of them, because most of them start with Mick and Keith met at a train station in Dartford. How many times do you need to hear this? And often I'll read them until they get a fact wrong, and then I go, right, okay, thanks. And I'll move on. So, but the books I like are the ones by the fans. I've got half a dozen of them, and by the other fans and people who are passionate about it, rather than some guy, telling the story or
some journalist writing something.
You like Stone Alone by Bill Wyman?
Not really.
I haven't read it for a long time. I did read it, I think, when it first came out, but I prefer them. I prefer, as I said, the ones by people, just the different sort of books and things. But I'm actually in another book. There's a book called Love You Live, if you want to look that up while you're there, Andrew. Love You Live, Fanfare for the Common Fan. And it's got it's all about Rolling Stones fans. This came out in the 90s. And this car up here on the top This is my car on the cover. My old car that I hand painted when I lived at Peach Grove Road, and
Wow.
Really?
yeah. I bought that off my best mate at the time for $20. Mitzi Mirage, and
you
hand
took up
painted
the
it with
Voodoo Lounge tour.
yeah, exactly. Got it then. And I actually won a competition on it was on the Rock, I think. Back in '95, we'll give away 2 tickets. What's the craziest thing you'll do to get 2 tickets? I said I'll paint my car, which I'd already painted, but they were okay with that, and they gave me a couple of extra tickets. And so there's all sorts of chapters on different fans, and there's a whole chapter on me in this book, and each chapter's like 3 or 4 pages. So Richard Fox in another land.
What was the title of that book, please, Richard?
Sorry?
What's the title of that book, please?
It's called Love You Live. Rolling Stones Fanfare from the Common Fan by Mary Lou Regan. So I met Mary Lou a couple of years ago.
That's Love You Live's named after the bootleg, 1969. No, Love You Live was the 78.
77 album, yeah. Liver than you'll ever be. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So. Is it true about all the girls?
For who? For me?
All of them, yeah.
Not for Charlie.
Married.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know how much I can say this without naming that. I've got a friend who I met via eBay of all things. A friend. It's a crazy place, you know. You don't normally meet friends on eBay, but I met this woman through eBay, and we've become quite good friends, and we've done lots of trading. She used to own a record store in the 70s in Los Angeles. And she got propositioned by Mick Jagger in the 70s in LA, and she turned him down. You know, like, how crazy is that? How many chicks have said, "Oh, no, thanks, Mick," but she did, and she was very attractive. But yeah, so I guess a lot of it's true, you know. Yeah.
Wow.
Not for Charlie. No, Charlie's happily married, and I don't think he's ever strayed that I'm aware of from what you hear. And here's a little Charlie story that most people don't know. So Charlie doesn't. I'm talking to someone who knows the stuff anyway. So Charlie does not rehearse at all, does not play the drums between Stones tours at all. You know, he'll just, you know, he'll turn up and maybe for the rehearsals or whatever, but between tours he's not at home playing his drum. You know that Keith wakes up, plays his guitar until he falls over and goes to sleep, and Mick probably does a little bit of that, and Ronnie does as well. But Charlie does nothing. The only thing he does is when they have Chinese. He picks up the chopsticks and does a little drum solo on the table with his chopsticks. That's the only rehearsal he'll do between tours. So I've been well informed. So, yeah.
One thing I like about Charlie, he's got impeccable taste in clothing. Where Mick Jagger's got $1 billion and he can't dress for shite.
I know. Always bad running shoes and short trousers and badly worn caps, and you know, yeah.
Purple shirts and green shirts and like that amazing.
He looks good on stage, though.
Waiting on a friend. The video of Waiting on a Friend. What a terrible shirt.
Yeah. I went to those steps. I went to those stairs in New York a month ago.
Was that Manhattan or is that Bronx or Brooklyn or?
It's Manhattan. Yeah. It's St. Mark's Place. So yeah, down by the Bowery, I think, or whatever. East Village, is that what it is? Yeah, somewhere down there.
Have you ever been to Dartford at the train station with your?
No, I haven't. I haven't. No. And lots of my friends have, and lots of them posted photos. And there's obviously Brian Jones's grave, and there's a plaque at the railway station and that there. I've normally got better things to do while I'm on these tours and things. It's limited time, and
have you driven through Cheltenham or been?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. I haven't been to Cheltenham. No.
I've been to Cheltenham.
Or Dartford Maypole Primary.
I live about 60 miles from Cheltenham.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Very nice Regency town.
Sure.
What about Stargroves or anything? You jumped any fences?
No, I haven't. I have to be honest. I haven't been to any of those places at all. I haven't gone out of my way. I was in Nice for a while. I never went to Nelcott. I might have gone past it, but I didn't know. No.
Have you ever cooked bangers and mash? Does Keith Richards have a recipe?
Shepherd's pie, you mean?
Shepherd's pie, yeah. Famous shepherd's pie recipe.
Of course. Yeah, don't bust the crust. Yes. Yeah. So no, but one of the speaking of food, we were in Adelaide at the rehearsals, and this is the first and only time I've been to a rehearsal because it was close to town, close to New Zealand, and I factored that into my travel time. So we went to Adelaide for the last 3 days of rehearsals or whatever, and in the paper. The one day it had Mick Jagger went to this such and such Italian restaurant, and so I was with a friend of mine who's a doctor and another friend, and he goes, right, let's go there tonight. So we find some Aussie guy, took us to this restaurant. We walked into this restaurant, the three of us, we sit down at the table. The waiter comes over with the menus to give us the menus. No, we want what Mick had. Just give us the Mick meal from the night before. So we got the three entrees of what Mick had, 3 times the main of what Mick had. And I had the beer of what he had, and so yeah, just the mixed meal. That's what we want. We're here for mixed meal. So that's pretty cool. And I told him, you guys should put this on the menu. It'd be a huge seller. The Mick Jagger meal. Like people will come and have it.
Yeah, you can, get things named after you, can't you, in restaurants?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, what those guys have done in 60 years, the places they've been, the people they've spoken to, is just. I mean, politicians haven't done that. World leaders, it's something else, isn't it?
Yeah. So I read once that more people in the world have physically seen Mick Jagger than anyone else in the world. I don't know how true that is versus the Pope and Princess Diana and things, but I remember reading that at some stage,
Wow.
Yeah.
And so Mick Jagger is the son of a PE teacher. He's got just amazing genes, eh? He's up on that stage. I saw a video of him 76 years old after his heart surgery, dancing like an 18-year-old little girl. It's incredible to watch.
If he was not lead singer of the Rolling Stones, he would be Olympic champion at something. He's a freak.
Oh, is that right?
He's the most driven man. Bernard Fowler, who gets around in the music industry and recorded with all sorts of people, all sorts of stars. And in multiple interviews, he goes, Mick Jagger's the hardest working man in the music industry, The guy doesn't rest. He's just totally driven, He's such very business savvy. And Keith as well. Keith's got, just any photos of Keith's house is normally in his library, These guys are very well read. They're constantly reading. They're very intelligent guys. Mick particularly, he's very sharp. So...
Wow.
Yeah.
He's
been like that since the early 70s, isn't he, Mick? He's been
involved the London School of Economics and all that.
LSE,
indeed. Because they got screwed in the 60s, I think he upskilled himself on all this business stuff,
Alan Klein.
Good point.
Yeah. So you might need to thank Alan in some ways.
Well, yeah. Put him where he is today.
Alan gave them an offer they couldn't refuse. He said, here's all this money up front, but forgot to tell them that he owns their songs.
Yeah.
Very sad.
They were young. They were foolish. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really.
That's never been said before, is it? In rock and roll terms, is it? Got screwed over by a manager. Really?
Yeah.
What do you know about the Australian 73 tour? That they played really well. Do you know anything about that tour or anything? Or
I've got a few friends who went to Kooyong, which everyone raves about, and I think that was super hot there as well. And obviously the Perth 73 comes up in lots of bootleg discussions as being particularly good as well. Yep. So
I think I've got bootleg. One bootleg I do own of the Stones is 73 in Perth, and I think the cover is called Will Keith Wake Up for the Show?
Okay, yeah.
Isn't it amazing with the bootlegs, all these different names like... I
know. And there are multiple names for the same shows and things like that, or they swap out one song from some other where, or stick in this song from West Germany.
I've got another bootleg from Altamont. There's no Angels Born in Hell or something like that. Just all this...
Yeah.
And also, I remember at the time when I was younger, one that I loved was Tight Dresses and Tampax. It was a bootleg.
God, what a life! What a life!
Yeah.
What about
I know you're a mixed guy, but what about Keith's solo tour and stuff? Did you ever see him solo, or did you?
I haven't seen him solo. He hasn't come to this part of the world. He hasn't done one for a long time. Would I travel to see one? If it was Australia, it's expensive to go to America. I like I'm a Stones fan, and I say I'm a Mick fan. I want to see Jagger and the Stones. I don't want to see Jagger solo. I will, of course, and I'll see Charlie solo or whatever. But I haven't. And would I would love. Of course, I would love to, but I wouldn't go busting going into debt over it as I might for a Stones tour.
Okay.
And, but I do like, and I think his last album, I think, was his best album. So.
What's the latest thing you've bought Stones memorabilia, whether it be today or yesterday?
Well, today. Oh, sorry, today.
Surprise unboxing.
Today's unboxing came in a shoebox from Australia. I'll show you.
See, surprise unboxing.
So literally unboxing. So this arrived today from Australia. So a wooden box, and turn that, and it's got 2 whiskey type glasses in there.
Wow.
I thought it was going to be salt and pepper containers for a minute.
I have salt and pepper.
Really?
So, yeah.
Do you have a puppet, a Rolling Stone puppet, a robot that talks like them?
I do.
Oh. How did you know? Well done.
I don't normally get this down because it's up high, but I have Captain Teague Sparrow. So Keith Richards, when he was Johnny Depp dad in Pirates of the Caribbean, and it actually does talk. So it does a little bit. There's a few things. So I don't know how well you can see that, but yeah.
Isn't that fascinating that Captain Sparrow's based on Keith's demeanour and look?
Yeah. Yes.
That's amazing.
And you know how Keith in the movie, my understanding too, is that certainly in the first one, the director had to lie on the floor and hold Keith's feet on the ground because Keith couldn't sit still. So,
lovely.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So now I've got that. In terms of what you're kind of maybe getting at, I've also got this bad boy here. The Jagger.
Oh my god, that's brilliant. That's freaking awesome.
Don't wear that to a gig.
No, it's very hot, so I don't wear it very often.
Yeah.
Or for very long. But,
Have they had dolls out? Have they had figurines out?
Of course. Funny you should say that too. This year, I've already pre-ordered them on Amazon. The Funko Pops, those little weird-looking square-headed things. Which if you go to Real Groovy, you'll see thousands of them. Finally, they're doing a set of the 4 Stones, so that's due out before Christmas. The Funko Pops, and I have a set of bobbleheads.
I haven't heard of that either.
Do you own the original cereal from 1964 when they did a cereal commercial?
No.
Okay.
Do you? I don't know anyone who does. But what I do own, which is similar, I guess, well, are these here.
Okay.
Biscuits. Rolling Stones biscuits, only available in Chile.
Chili flavor.
These came out a couple of years ago. And they're 2 flavors, vanilla and chocolate. And of course, I have one of each. Sorry?
Do they burn your tongue?
I don't know. I haven't tried them. I haven't used them, but yeah. So, but these are not the latest. Actually, I just forgot. I bought some macaroni in New York. There was a pop-up store in a shop called I forget, something in Goodman, Bergdorf and Goodman, a very exclusive shop by Central Park, and they did some Rolling Stones macaroons, and so I bought a box of those. So each one has a little tongue.
If there was a nuclear holocaust and the electricity went off in your Rolling Stones bunker, how long could you survive for? 6 months?
I could get very, very drunk, but I don't know about food wise. So you can see that. I guess you can see the tequila range here. So we got the normal, the 700ml bottle, the 750, which is the normal New Zealand one. You have the 1 litre, the Mexican 750. We'll show you this puppy here. This is the creme de la creme. Comes in the wooden box.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful bottle, individually hand numbered.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Cool.
The big gold thing on it. So yeah. So survive a wee while, but you know.
If you were to give anybody some advice as of today or tomorrow, if they want to start out,
Don't buy autographs.
Yes. Rule 1: don't buy autographs.
Rule number 1: don't ever buy autographs.
Rule
But
2,
sorry, some advice in terms of what, Carl?
just follow your passion, I guess.
Yeah. Well, my biggest advice would be forget buying all this shit. Go and see them live while you can, because those days are numbered. We don't know how long. It might be a few more years. It might not be. You just don't know. Every show could be the last show. I went to Miami because it was the last one of this tour. Maybe the last one ever. Hopefully not. I suspect it won't be, but you don't know. My advice is go and see the Rolling Stones. They're the greatest rock and roll band in the world ever and forever, and you won't regret it. I've taken. I love one of the things I've loved doing a couple of times. I was in Nuremberg for the opening show of the Bridges of Babylon tour in '98. I'm staying in a backpackers there, and I had two roommates. I arrived the night before the show. I had two roommates, American guys, young guys, and they knew who the Stones were. They were just doing the OE thing through America, through Europe. And I said, come on, let's go and find some Stones tickets. I didn't have a ticket at all. I'd gone there, no Stones tickets, and so we managed to get 3 tickets off somehow. I can't quite remember, of people in town or whatever, just walking around asking people who had spare tickets. And we took them in there, and they just had the time of their life. The first time they see the Stones. And I took in Perth in 2014, my best friend who I'd known for 20 years in Hamilton Peach Grove Road days, had never seen the Stones, but had heard me go on and on and on about it for 20 years or whatever. And I convinced him to come along, and he was prepared to pay X amount of money. And I said, I'll pay the extra. I want you to come into the pit, into the front area. And so I got him in there. And for the first time and the only time in my life, when the Stones came on stage, rather than looking at them, I looked at his face, and it was just priceless. It was just
any highlights of guest performers on stage with the Stones?
To be honest, they're all lowlights, really. Rule number 3. Okay, is my thing. And this is going to touch on Blue and Lonesome here. I'm a Jagger Richards fan. I like my songs to be Jagger Richards. I want to see the Rolling Stones play. I want to see Mick Jagger's song. I do not want Just My Imagination. I do not want Harlem Shuffle. I do not want anything from Blue and Lonesome. I want songs that Jagger, Mick, and Keith have written. That for me is the holy.
And you don't want Angus Young or Axl Rose or Sheryl Crow?
No, and I don't, because I want the Stones. Having said that, I do love the LA stuff with Angus and Izzy Stradlin. Izzy Stradlin is the Guns N' Roses guy as far as I'm concerned. He's the man, and he's done some stuff with Ronnie Wood on his first solo album. Is he in the Juju Hounds?
No argument.
Which I have. But yeah. The duets, I can take them or leave them, and whatever. And I would like to have seen certain people more so than others. The worst one ever was Dave Matthews. He played with them on the Bridges tour in Amsterdam for 5 nights. He came on. 4 nights he came on out of the 5 nights. There we did like this back in the old days. They did 5 shows in the space of 8 days in one place. Perfect. And so I went to all of those, and Dave Matthews came on and butchered Memory Motel, which you can hear on No Security, And yeah. So, oh my God.
What the hell were they saying?
Break a leg, Dave. Take a break, Dave, and just drink. Don't drink the water, So,
might have been there.
But I did see. I think was it James Bay played with the Stones in the UK last year. I think was it James Bay. I get these young guys confused. And he came on and did Beast of Burden or something with the Stones, and he was actually good. He had the moves like Jagger, He was a man on the rise. But, and I've seen Angus and Malcolm play, actually. Angus and Malcolm played with them for the first time I ever played them was actually at the Enmore Theatre in Sydney, a club show there. And so,
wow.
And if you look at the video, but Rock Me Baby, if you look at the official Rolling Stones video of that, you'll see me in the video. So yeah.
In the concert.
Yeah. From the concert,
doing?
I'm just in the front row, whatever. So
yeah,
just enjoying it.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that's cool. And I've actually got I've got a photo. I'll take you for a walk rather than get it down. So I've got this photo. I don't know how well you can see that. There's Keith there. You can see that.
Hold on. Let me present you. Cool.
Did you take that
Can
photo?
you see that?
Yep.
No, the guy, my friend Brian, was standing behind me, took the photo. This is my hand in the photo. This is my hand reaching for it. And then if you look carefully over here, for Richard, One Love, Keith Richards. And he signed that when he was here in Auckland after the coconut tree.
Wow.
So I took that photo in to get him sign it. His security guards took it in and they got it. They did it, And then they also brought out an extra one, which he did. 2 Richard, One Love, Keith Richards on that black and white one there.
Wow.
So, yeah. And while we're talking Malcolm and Angus, here they are here at that same show. With the, I don't know how well you can see that. So yeah.
Wow.
So they're right there, and then Ronnie playing right in front of me as well, So
amazing times.
Yeah. Good times. So yeah. So I collect all this sort of crap here. I don't know if you want a guided tour of some of this sort of memorabilia, if you can see that.
Yes, please.
So this. I've got this cabinet here. Shelf. Each shelf is per tour or per album, whatever. So this is Voodoo Lounge. So you have Argentinian Coca-Cola cans. You have Swiss Army knives. There's promo things, glasses, matches and watches and hats and VW cars, because VW are a sponsor. So little model cars over here. Phone cards from Japan and ties and pens and just all sorts of crap. Then Bridges to Babylon, we have things, I don't know how well you can still see, but here's a periscope. So for little people, you could get a periscope, you could get some binoculars as well, Rolling Stones binoculars. Then you've got chips, casino chips from Vegas shows there, more watches and pencils and incense and blah, 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 and then stuff down here from the Licks tour and the Bang tour, Japanese wine, which is only available, promo stuff. We've got a set of drumsticks actually here from Jet, the band that opened for the Stones, the Aussie rock band. They opened every night, and the drummer would come down after a couple of the shows, would come down and hand me his drumsticks at the end of the show. And then we got the stuff from South America here, which is where the biscuits came from. Here, the other ones, the vanilla ones, the chocolate ones go back in there, some beers. And down here, and then this is the latest, greatest addition to my collection is Charlie's drumstick from Houston. So this is the drumstick he played with on Satisfaction, and he threw it into the crowd, and I was lucky enough to get that after from the show. Basically landed at my feet. And so it's been used by the great Charles Robert Watts.
Wow.
And then we've got stuffed skateboards, all sorts of things, socks, balls, guitars, the famous Kiwi poster from '73. I don't know if you can see this Fender at all. Can you see that, boys? The biggest Banquet Fender guitar. Yeah. So this is interesting story. This is a genuine telly, a Mexican one for those who are particular about that sort of stuff. Autographed by Bernard Fowler and Paul Jones, the bass player from the Stones. And this was only available from Amazon, of all places. So you could not go to any Fender shop in the world and buy it. You could only buy it via Amazon.com, and they're all individually numbered. And there's only 300 of these in the world were made, and it has its own little numbered plaque in there. So,
do you own any Marlboro cigarettes that Keith might have used?
Funny you should say that again, young man. But I've got I don't. But what I do have, and I've lost it. I have to say I've lost it. Is after one night after the rehearsals, maybe the last night of rehearsals in Adelaide. It was dark at that stage. Ronnie left. The window came down, and a cigarette butt came out the window, and I ran up the road and got Ronnie's cigarette butt. So. But I've lost it. So I don't know where it is. It's somewhere, but
Someone smoked
Yeah.
it.
It's
Yeah,
Provenance.
So so no, that's I do also have Ronnie Wood's pillowcases as well. So in '95,
Broke into his house, stole his bedding.
oh please. So no, and I can back up the truck in 1973 when the Stones came here. They did no promo, they did no media. All they did was donated their bed linen from their hotel to charity, to an auction, so the money could go to a boys' home. I forget the name of the boys' home in '73. That was the only thing. And in '95, they did exactly the same. There was no radio interviews, no Mike Hoskins crap or anything like that, or whatever, or TV stuff, nothing. And all they did was 2 weeks after they left, you're allowed to auction off our bed linen, and the Regent Hotel auctioned off all their bed linen. And the only thing I could afford was Ronnie's pillowcases, mixed sheets, and stuff was too expensive. And they actually mentioned it. I think the lady, I forget her first name, but Too Good. She ran Ready to Roll RTR. She was the producer on that or something, and she had the dollars and could get mixed stuff. But
Hey, unfortunately, I've got work tomorrow.
hey,
Yeah. I'd love to keep chatting. You guys can keep chatting if you like. I have to, unfortunately, take a bow.
okay.
I have to, maybe 5 more minutes, so we'll round it out if you like from me. I've got my inspection tomorrow, so I've got to get my place tidy.
Okay.
I'm happy to talk for a little bit more, Richard, if you want to.
Is this working well for you, Andrew? Is this good?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm happy to hear you share some more stories and yeah.
Well, I'm happy to talk about the Stones,
Yeah. I've got about 5 more minutes, so you guys just truck along.
Well, whatever, you guys bring up a subject or something, and I'm sure I can add some story to it. So.
Well, Dave has been messaging me some questions. So, what's your earliest bit of Stones memorabilia that you own?
I have some. Well, the first albums and things like that. I have in terms of New Zealand stuff. That's particularly interesting. I have the '65 and '66 New Zealand tour programs.
Wow.
And I've got some records from I guess a year or two earlier than that. But those tour programs are nice and in good condition, and are probably two of the nicest things I can show you just quickly if you want. I have those at hand, of course.
This is amazing.
People might say they have them. It doesn't mean they have them, but yeah, here they are. Here, so these are the 65 and 66 New Zealand tour programs. Yeah. So they're kind of classic bits of New Zealand.
Roy Orbison and the New Beats. Yeah. Cool. So
and in terms of my angle of the Stones, and everyone's different, and it partly depends on your age a bit as well. The older people, and that's wrong. The older people tend to like the older music, like the '60s stuff more so. Even though I only came into the Stones world in the '80s. I'm a fan of the Taylor years, and particularly the tongue years. So really, I'm huge on the Rolling Stones tongue and on the logo, which I know seems weird, and I don't know why. I really like it, but if it's got a tongue on it, I want it. If it came from 1969, I don't care quite so much about it. I like to have the tongue on my stuff, and it's just my thing. I really enjoy anything that has the tongue motif on it, and those are the things that excite me the most, more than something that could be from the '60s, which can be way more valuable and rarer and particularly nice. And they had plastic toy guitars from the '60s. I'd love something like that, but would I trade it for a newer version? I don't know if I would. The newer one would be a lot less value and a lot less rare, but I really like it because it has the tongue logo on it. So.
Dave's asking another question. Have you ever talked to Matt Lee about his collection and your collection?
Of course, I'm good friends with Matt. I was talking to him today, so I've been to his house a few times, and so no, Matt and we go way back.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So, Richard, I'd like to know. I mean, obviously, this is a lifelong obsession. How did it start? I mean, what first? The Rolling Stones, amongst many other bands in the '80s and stuff. What drew you to them when you were a kid?
Well, I can tell you exactly what happened. So, I went to school in Rotorua, which is a town sort of in the middle of the North Island, sort of population at the time, 60,000 people or something, I guess. I don't know, something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
And my best friend at the time, we'd left school, I think we were 17. He had a blue Toyota Corolla station wagon, and we were driving down the main street of Rotorua, and he took the cassette out, and he turned it over and put it in. Side 2 came on, and Bitch played, and that was the moment. I was like,
yeah.
So,
then you went out and bought all their records and kind of started investing.
Well, I did, as I said, I got the Jagger thing, but that was later. But I can't remember the exact sequence, and maybe I already had the Jagger album. I can't remember. But when that Bitch came on, that was the moment. Like, oh my god, this is fantastic! I love this. And as a going off on these tangents as I do, lots of people go, who with the Stones, it'd be great to see Mick Taylor. Yeah, I would love to see Mick Taylor. Brian Jones, of course, it would be nice to see him. But the one person I missed the most from seeing on stage with the Stones is Bobby Keys. If I could bring anybody back from history to be on stage with the Stones, it would be Bobby Keys. His sax playing is just so unique and just so brilliant, and I just the flavour and the way he plays the sax is just adds so much, especially to the Mick Taylor years, which is once again my favourite. The Sticky Fingers is my favourite album, and all those tracks on there are just amazing, and Bobby was the man. And I got to meet him actually just before he died, and his last solo show was actually, I think, will be the Auckland show, and I had the poster and he autographed it, and I got backstage, and I'm friends with his son Jesse, and so I was very fortunate to meet him, get some photos with Bobby.
With that song Bitch, which is a song I really liked, was it Keith's guitar? Was it Mick's growl? Was it just Charlie's great drumming, or was it just the whole band?
It's the whole thing, man. It's the whole thing, and the sax,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's just dirty rock and roll at its best.
Kicking. He met some model. He took her to the restroom. He was kicking in the stall, wasn't he?
Oh, I can't. Oh, was he? I can't remember that story. There's so many stories, though, and I don't know everything about the Stones, so I just got to plug my power bank into my phone before it dies, boys.
That's all right. So, Richard, then did you start collecting the memorabilia kind of straight after that, or was it much more gradual?
No,
by the records.
Totally gradual. You couldn't buy memorabilia back then. There was no internet, so the first things would have been things that were promo items, came via the record store. I think one of the first things is the Steel Wheels clock that was that I got from the aforementioned Cookie from the record store. And back in '89, I've added these magnets onto it, but basically it's this shitty clock which you can buy, and basically the record company had this put on here. It's not even a proper Steel Wheel CD; it's just a generic clock, but they had this put on it, and then made them worth a fortune. So that's probably the first thing I got that you would class as memorabilia. And then. It just kind of went from me, you're buying picture discs is probably the next closest thing to memorabilia, buying picture discs, like Ed Rudy, his Precious Stones one, and bits and pieces. And just.
Oh, I remember that picture disc. It was colourful. It had Brian Jones, that big Gretsch.
I'm going to have a look.
Yeah. So.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was good.
Did you ever make it all the way over to Tauranga? There was a pretty good record store in Tauranga.
Yeah. Record Roundabout run by a guy called Tony Pill. Well, Tony, I've just reconnected with him in the last 6 months after not hearing from him for 20 years, and he's actually reopening his record store this month or next month. He's opening a new one in the historic village in Tauranga. So if you're going to Tauranga, to the historic village, he'll be there. So
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, he had some good stuff. He was probably one of the first places actually before the internet where I was buying stuff. I remember getting some Steel Wheels T-shirts off him and some other knick-knacky things that you would not otherwise have got. There used to be an awesome shop in Porirua as well called Wonderland Records. I think he's now over the hill in Wainui-o-Mara, and I used to get some interesting stuff there on the odd trip to Wellington.
Did you ever know Grant McCullum or Brett from Real Groovy?
Yeah, Brent. Yep. But I normally deal with Roger there, RL, who's now at Southbound Records.
Oh wow. What about? Did you ever meet a guy called Lester?
Brent Cardy? Brent Cardy, is that the one?
Yep.
Yeah. He's still there. I think I saw him in there when I was there a while ago. He's come back. He went to Groovy and he's back at Marbex, I think, or was.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Talking of Richard, talking of picture discs, I remember I had this. I'm sure you recognise this.
Yes, of course.
Still Life. Yeah.
Yes, of course. So the particularly rare one, I think there's one with a white edge. I've never seen one, but supposedly you get one with a white edge rather than the black edge. But
yeah. No, I don't think.
I love it. I do love that. I love that front, that A side of that is beautiful. That picture. That's one of my favourites.
Yeah. Great inner sleeve as well.
Yes.
Loads of stuff on it.
Richard, are there underground Stones fans and Stones shows in like Siberia or Iran or Kuwait or Mongolia or?
What do you mean by underground? Are you saying fans or concerts or what?
Yeah, a bit of both. Like, I know.
Well, there's no underground concerts because all the concerts are well known about. There's no, if they have a secret show, it's still well known, and we know that it's happening. There's no in terms of fans. There are fans everywhere in the world. So I have friends in places like Israel, India, Romania. Poland. My favorite fans in the world currently. There's a bunch of half a dozen guys from Poland who are just insanely fun, and they're just the best guys to hang out with on the tour. So I love seeing these Polish guys. One of them actually. Here's a great story. It's a long. Basically, I went to this show in Miami and it was brought forward because of the hurricane. Right. I don't know if you heard that. The Stones were playing their last show. It was brought forward because of
Dorian.
And I was due to fly in, and I was due to arrive at 10 o'clock at night when the concert should be just about finishing. I was able to move one of my Houston to Miami flight an hour forward, and then I was still hoping I'd get there just in time for Satisfaction. And luckily it pissed down in Miami just as they were due to come on stage at 8:30 because they'd got rid of the opening band, so they were due on stage at 8:30. It pissed down. The show was delayed an hour. I touched down into Miami Airport at the same time they went on stage. I got out. I travelled just with carry-on. I deliberately had no checked luggage. Got out of the plane, ran out of the building. And we're talking running. Normally I take an Uber because it's cheaper, and I wasn't going to wait the 5 minutes. Grabbed the first taxi guy. It was an old black guy. Told him the story. Step on the gas, mate. We just got to go. We're doing 80 mile an hour at time.
Just like
we get to the stadium, and I miss the first 5 songs. I've missed, but I can hear. You can't always get what you want, which is kind of semi-appropriate. Outside, I have to find a place, drop my bag, so I can hear 2 more songs, and then I get inside for Sympathy for the Devil Onward. So the last, whatever it is, 8-9 songs or something like that. So it's just fantastic. But anyway, in the meantime, my Polish people were tracking my flight, and one of these Polish guys sent an email to the Miami. He sent me a copy of this email the day after. He sent an email to the Miami-Dade police to tell them to come and pick me up at the airport and give me an escort to the concert. and how cool is that? How much love is that in the community, That is so cool. Cool. We know it's not going to happen, but he tried, and it was his idea, and amazing, I love that guy,
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's amazing with Rolling Stones concerts. You'll have a grandmother that went to their shows in the 60s, her son and her daughter and their kids, 3 generations.
Yes.
At some of these shows.
Yes. Yeah, totally. I'm not necessarily to see all 3 generations at the one show, but probably I don't want to say the oldest. One of my older fans. friends, her first show, well, two of them, two ladies actually. One's American, one's English. One saw them at Altamont, and the other one saw them at Hyde Park in '69. And these two ladies travel the world still, well into their 60s, and go to lots of Stone shows around the world. So yeah.
Do you think Mick and Keith?
One of them takes their daughter.
Do you think they get tired of playing Satisfaction?
Yeah, but the crowd demands it. I wouldn't care if I never saw it again. But me and my friends, we make up 0.1% of the crowd. If it wasn't for the public wanting Satisfaction, there would be no Stones tours. So it's a catch-22. I don't want to hear any of the songs that the public want to hear. I don't want to hear Jumping Jack Flash and Honky Tonk Woman. I want all the obscure tracks and rare stuff. But that ain't going to happen, And I'm realistic. And if we get one or two slightly offbeat songs, we get Bitch or something like that, which the public possibly don't know or whatever. Those are the moments that I live for, and that's why I go to see these things. I wouldn't care if I never heard Tumbling Dice ever again in my life.
All right,
but
it's
I will.
a pleasure.
And the other thing I also say about these sorts of things, because the set list is probably the most controversial thing, and my pet thing that I struggle to bitch about the Stones. You won't get anything too objective out of me, other than I would argue about the set list. But I also say that if all I'm going to get is 2 hours of Miss You, a 2-hour version of Miss You, I'll still go. Because it's still going to be awesome. It's still going to be the Stones.
Do you own
a 2-hour Miss You? Sorry?
Do you own a set list?
Oh, I own several set lists. Yeah, lots of set lists. Yeah, and lots of guitar picks as well.
Bona fide set list.
Sorry?
A bona fide set list from the show.
Yeah, of course.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. But it's not as rare as you might think. So basically, it's a photocopied piece of paper, but you get it from someone in the crew or whatever,
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
Same guy.
It's not handwritten or whatever,
No.
All right, Richard. After 30 years, 30 licks. I'm glad we caught up. This is
mate. It's been great. So this is your singlet, eh?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I don't know why I've still got it. Because normally I try and trade things and sell things, but I don't think anyone wants to buy it, mate.
No surprises there.
So this is the 30 licks. This is the 30 licks broadcast we've done tonight.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's been good.
So,
if you want to talk Stones again another time.
Yeah, we'll do another Stone show. Last thing, so Sticky Fingers is your favourite album. What's your favourite song?
Winter is my favourite song.
Oh, wow.
From Goat's Head Soup.
Wow.
Goat's Head Soup. That is my favourite song. Full stop.
Wow.
I know it's Lita. I read once it's Lita Ford's favourite song, from the Runaways, Joan Jett.
Yeah.
That was her.
Yeah.
And I've met the odd other person, like maybe one or two other people in my travels that they would say that's their favourite song. It's not, but for me, that is my favourite song. And is the reason I love it is Mick singing on the enunciation of the words and just how he sings that song. So I don't know if you want to do an outro with that or add some music in, but sorry?
On YouTube, I like to read the comments to pick people's brains, and the comments on YouTube about Winter are amazing, like most underrated song or best song or I don't know much about it. I've only heard it once or twice.
Yeah. Listen, go and listen to it. It's the only Stone song that I will play on repeat at work. Sometimes I'll just have it playing over and over. And Mick Taylor does a whole lot of solo versions of it with a woman called Carla Olsen. I think there's some like 12-minute versions and things like that, which are good. But it's the Jagger vocals for it's the whole package. It's the Stones, but for me, it's the way Mick sings it, and just.
What about the Time Waits for No One? Time Waits for No One guitar solo.
Yeah. Funny stuff. Everyone goes on about how wonderful that is. Yeah, it's great stuff. I like the Loving Cup, Shine a Light, all those sorts of really angsty kind of songs are my favorite Stone songs as a general rule. Out of Control is my favorite new song. So
did you fall in love with Winter when you first heard it, or was it a song that grew on you over the years?
I think it would have grown on me. It was kind of like, it was like I don't have that moment like I do with the Bitch moment, But
Okay.
no, it's winter and even even my friends all know. And like, I missed the show, the start of that show into Miami the other day, and I said, "Oh, what did I miss?" And my mate turned to me, and go, "Oh, they played Winter," which I've never played live, So it was,
he was kidding you. He was joking.
Yeah, he was taking the piss. Yeah. Oh, they opened with Winter.
Richard,
I knew straight away it's bullshitting me because it's just never going to happen. But if you ever see any fan post they put on the Stones, what song do you want to hear? I'll just write Winter every time, and get heaps of likes on it. There's always other people who really want to hear Winter. A few years ago, I guess back in the early noughties, the song that I think most Stones fans wanted to hear that they'd never heard was "Can't You Hear Me Knocking," and then they played that, on the Licks tour, I think, or Bang tour.
Oh, the 2004 tour. They pretty much did the whole Sticky Fingers album.
Yeah. Well, they did the Sticky Fingers live at the Fonda. Came out a couple of years ago.
Yep, in 2015.
I'm in the video on that. So if you go to Wild Horses and Dead Flowers, they zoom in on me on that live at the Fonda.
And what are you doing?
He's going like this.
Oh, you'll have to go and have a look. But you can see it on. You can find it on YouTube. But Wild Horses and Dead Flowers. I feature on that. So.
Wow. Wow.
So that's an interesting story as well. So I went to America because I knew there was going to be a club show by my friends, that there would be a club show, and I had worked out where it would be roughly, and I went and I had no ticket, and it was only invite only to the show on the day. No one knew if the public would get in. On the day, they said, right, we've got 100 tickets available. The venue holds maybe 2,000 people or something, 1,500, whatever. And we've got 100 tickets available. First people to buy them online or whatever. And then you have to drive across town to a theatre to pick up your ticket. And the tickets were $10. And so people paid their $10. They drove across town. They got their ticket and they got their $10 cash back. They were given $10 cash back. And so their tickets were free, and they got to get into the show. And then there are other people who are connected and know people, and they get tickets through other means. And I had a couple of German friends who I think were paying, they paid $2,000 for their tickets to get in or whatever. And I was very lucky that a good friend of mine knew someone who had a spare ticket, and he convinced this guy to give me this ticket. So I got in for free as well. So yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
So, yeah,
okay.
That's the highlight show, pretty much.
My last question. Thanks, Richard. Hope we see you again.
Yeah.
54,
Guaranteed.
54 concerts. Any one stick out?
A few. The first one's always amazing because it's the first one. The last one's always amazing because it's the last one. But other than that, I've done 3 club shows, and they're kind of like the badges of honour on your CV. So I've seen them at the Enmore Theatre in Sydney, Shepherd's Bush Empire in London, and the Fonda Theatre in LA. So those are kind of the holy grail shows. The second Perth show in 2014 stands out because they played Loving Cup, and I prayed and prayed and prayed for Loving Cup, and it came up and won the vote, which is unbelievable. And I was just screaming like a banshee, and even Bernard Fowler, I looked up and he was pointing at me and laughing at me because I was just so screaming and so excited that they were going to play Loving Cup, and I hadn't seen it for once. That was a highlight. So yeah.
Well,
love that
did
song.
you sing along? You sung along with them?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. With 50,000 of my closest friends, so. Well, it's probably 20,000 there at that venue, but
with those club shows, I've always been intrigued with club shows. Is the acoustics better, or is it more intimate, or what?
I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm in the front row and I'm hearing it straight from the monitors. So you get every show you go to in the world, there will be someone who bitches about the sound. I've learned that. Whatever the venue is, there's someone who's got the shitty spot. My sound sucked. That's just life, Yeah. My theory on that is, especially with a GA show, is get up earlier, get there. Why are you sitting in your fucking hotel? Go to the show now. Get to the front. Get the jaggers wet. Get there. Why not?
Yeah. They obviously never went to a show in 1972, did they?
You got something better to do than hang out with Stones fans waiting to see the greatest rock and roll band in the world? Get up earlier. Get there. So,
Richard, they obviously never went to a gig in 1972, is all I can say. Because the sound now compared to the sound then. It's like
yeah, exactly. Well, I had this discussion with some people the other day. The sound in the '60s and that was dreadful. Where even if you were front of stage, it was dreadful. Compared to what it is now.
Yeah.
So
I started going to
thing
gigs in 1972.
One other show I should talk about, I guess, is the holy grail of places in the world to see the Rolling Stones is Argentina. The fans there are the most insane in the world. Not all of South America is pretty intense, but Argentina's next level. Argentina is in a league of its own. So we would arrive at, I think, I went to 3 shows there a couple of years ago at La Plata where the All Blacks play. We'd get there at 10 o'clock in the morning, and already there would be 1,000 people in front of you in the queue. Or whatever, hundreds of people anyway in front of you in the queue there, and you get into the stadium at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the gates open. It's 30 something degrees. It's super hot. You're sweating like the proverbial. You get inside when the opening band comes on. They love the opening band. They're an Argentinian band. You're standing like this. You are standing like something. You have never been this squashed in your life. So I'm there. I have my hands up. The crowd moves in. My hands are here for like the next 4 hours. I cannot put my hands down beside me. My friend who's standing next to me cannot lift her hands up. She can't get her hands up. So by passing out cups of water along the edge, which doesn't get very far, plastic cups of water, I'm clear enough to I make sure rather than being front row, I'm second row. I've got a wall of German bodies between me and the steel. And so I'm getting the cups of water, I'm drinking them, and I'm pouring them in my friend's mouth because she can't reach the cup. She cannot physically get her hands up to get the cup. So the guy beside you is smoking, and it's falling on the neck of the guy in front of you. It's not on the ground. You cannot get trampled to death because you cannot hit the ground. And so when the crowd jump, if you don't want to jump, you're jumping. You are interlocked with everyone around you. So even if you try not to jump, you're going up and down on the spot. There was an Aussie guy standing behind me, and he goes, "I've had enough of this. I'm going." I looked around 20 minutes later, he had moved here. That's how far he got in 20 minutes. Seriously, it's unbelievable. And then this is the opening band, and then the Stones. It's like this even worse. And then the worst thing is Jagger comes towards you, and physically your rib cage halves in size, and your body exhales like that from the pressure of the crowd. And you feel like people are pissing all over you, which they probably are, but it's probably your sweat as well. You can't move, you can't do anything. It's just so hot, so intense, and they're so passionate, and they love it, and it's just an experience that if you want to see, I don't care. Whoever the other side to this is that they're about like this with every band. So the shittiest rock band in the world or pop band, they will do exactly the same. They party, they love it. They do not know the lyrics to Out of Control. They don't know all the older, the arguably slightly rarer songs. Some of them do. The Argentinians I do because they're super fans and they tour the world. But once again, the public, the 90% of them don't know all the lyrics to all. They know the Satisfactions and the Brown Sugars and that, and they just party and jump. And when we left, Satisfaction was the closing there. 5 minutes after it had finished and we were walking out, the crowd is still singing Satisfaction. It's just unbelievable. It's just fantastic. And we went there and we survived. Lots of my friends lost their wallets and what jewelry and everything. We went 3 times, and on the third show we were smart. We just left everything behind: t-shirt, shorts, some cash in the sole of your shoe. That's it. No keys, no rings, no clothes, no nothing. That's it. It's uncomfortable standing for many hours on a shoe with cash on one side and not on the other. And then next time to put cash in both shoes.
Balance them up.
Balance
them up.
Hey,
Richard, if a friend of yours got married and it was formal attire like a suit, would you have enough Rolling Stones memorabilia to go to his wedding, like a tie, cufflinks, shoes?
I have the cufflinks. I have a whole range of ties. I did actually have the most beautiful Rolling Stone suit jacket, and I bought it out of Japan, and I bought the largest, which was an XL, and it would be about the equivalent of a New Zealand small. So I ended up selling it to a woman. In America, and she loves it. And basically, it's like a suit, but it has the tongue in the stitching, in the fabric, not stitched on top. It's actually woven into the fabric. It's just absolutely stunning. I no longer have that. It was nice to look at. And I needed the money, and it deserved to be used. It was that beautiful, So other than that, but yeah, I have the cufflinks, I have the ties, I have the belts, I have the shoes, the socks. Maybe not wedding standard shoes. Maybe if you're wedding in Miami, perhaps, but not a. So,
Hey guys, see you. Eh? Thanks, Richard.
John,
all right,
take care.
no
man.
worries, mate.
See you soon.
Okay,
Can't wait for another one. See ya.
that's right.
Yeah.
No.
Get to
Rock
sleep.
and roll.
See ya.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
number 3.
Yes.
Richard, appreciate your time. It's fantastic and amazing. And I'm going to speak on behalf of Carl, but I'm sure Simon, you would love to have you back.
Yeah.
And
Anytime.
They come to you, when you hear something else and it sort of triggers a thought as you. So.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we appreciate it. I thought I was a Stones nut.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I thought I was a big fan, or I had a big collection. Lots of guys, can go look and say to your wife, you don't have to worry about me. Look at this guy, So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Look at this guy.
Yeah. So it's been good. I've enjoyed it, and want to do it again.
Thank you for coming on. It's really good.
With my phone here. Or maybe it's. Hold on. It's not dying yet, is it? No, there's still a bit of power there. But yeah, I think we're down to 7% even with my power bank. It's not coping with all this live streaming very well, so it will die shortly.
Okay, no, we'll wrap up anyway. And look, I appreciate you keeping in touch with me on Messenger, and we'll share some more.
Well, if you guys want to come here one day, if you want to even do a show from here one day, maybe
Oh wow!
You and Carl want to come with you?
It's a long way for me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, maybe in Easter when the Stones come here,
Yeah. No. Appreciate the invitation. We'll definitely take you up on that.
Okay. All right.
Is that when they're
we'll
next New Zealand next Easter? Are they?
Yeah.
Next Easter.
That's my prediction. Okay. Nothing official, but that's where I'd be putting my money. But,
okay. Oh, that sounds great. Awesome.
Mm.
So I'm just going to say, thanks, Richard, for your time. Thank you for sharing your passion with us, and it's contagious. You've pumped some Stones vitality back into me. So I'm going to go and listen to. I'm going to go and listen to Winter.
Yeah, do that. It's the one thing I get people talk about. There are other people with big collections and people who see more shows than me, but I think it's my passion is my biggest thing, is my selling point. My separation. That it's just I can't help it. I'm not putting this on. This is just start talking about this and it's
Fantastic.
it just flows.
Hey, mate, we're Kiwis. We can see bullshit a mile away.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's bullshit.
Yeah.
No, you're the real deal, man.
So how many watches have we had here, or people in the chat room or whatever? How many people have come and gone?
Oh, we've had Arvin who joins us regularly. Soda, a Canadian guy. Arvin's a Canadian. We've had Dave, another English guy. But we get a few people. Jason Wade, an American. Quentin James, another American. But we get a lot of people, that watch the reruns and make some comments. So,
Well, send me a link and I'll put it on my Facebook page, and you'll probably get a couple of people watching it. So.
Cool. I appreciate it. We're not about busting any kind of numbers. We just music lovers and just want to keep it organic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure.
Have some fun. That's cool.
Yep. Awesome.
All right, man. Well, I'm going to wish you well, and we're going to end the broadcast. And once more, thanks for your time, Richard.
It's been wonderful, and I also like to thank friends who have helped me get to where I am today. I couldn't have done this all on my own. I've had people who have helped me along the way with tours and getting to tours and stuff and memorabilia, and it's been teamwork throughout the years through lots of people starting back in the day with Cookie and Carl, and all the way up to people who sent me.
I'm good friends with Cookie. I saw Cookie. I saw Cookie a couple of weeks ago. He's working at the laundromat at the hospital.
Oh, is he? I love Cookie. Say hi from me, eh? I'd love. Is he
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah.
Facebook or what?
No, I don't think so. But
Graham
he
Shaw. Yeah,
yeah, he was a little bit down on his luck there for a little while. Yeah.
Say
But
good day from me, eh? I'm a big Cookie fan. He was awesome to me. He gave me lots of shit. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he's a good guy. You know.
Oh, he's a top man.
So I
He's a top
remember
man.
visiting him when he used to live near Boys High. So
That's right. Yeah.
Just down near Mike. So
That's it.
Mm.
No, I'll tell him that I bump into him in Hamilton East now and again.
Okay.
So yeah. I'll pass on your regards.
Yeah. For sure. Awesome. That's great.
Okay.
I'd love to hear from him. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Well, I'm gonna let you go, man, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, and go play Winter. Turn it up.
I will.
Up to 11.
Sure will.
All right, guys. Cheers.
All right. Take care, Richard. Bye.
Bye.